My name is Liliana, I'm 32, and I run a small app development company that I love. My husband, Cody, is 37 and works at a bank. We're both passionate about our jobs and support each other, often chatting late into the night about work. Even though we've been married for 4 years, we don't have kids yet, but we'd like to have a family someday. I come from a supportive family. My parents own an auto parts factory, now managed by my brother. Thanks to them, I've had the freedom to follow my dream of starting my own company. Although our businesses are different, my dad and brother always offer advice and support, which means a lot to me. Cody's family, on the other hand, runs a small factory. As their only child, Cody was expected to take over, but he chose a different path. The factory wasn't doing well, and his dad, Andy, even thought about closing it. From a young age, Cody was inspired by a kind banker he met who left a strong impression on him. Cody decided he wanted to work in banking, so he studied hard and eventually joined a major bank, where he's now happy working. On the outside, our marriage seems good, but there's an ongoing issue with my mother-in-law, Fee. She doesn't respect my job because I work remotely sometimes. She thinks it's not real work, just because I can do it from home. She often pressures me to join family events, even threatening that I'm no longer family if I don't go. She's even implied that if I miss a family trip, Cody and I should divorce. It's frustrating because I do my best to work around the family's plans and make sure I'm never an inconvenience, but she doesn't understand or value what I do. Little did I know, this upcoming trip would be the last one I'd ever take with my in-laws. Some people think remote work is easy just because I have a flexible schedule, but that's not the case. My mother-in-law, Fee, also disapproves of other things about our lives. For example, when Cody and I got married, we built our house halfway between both of our parents' homes. It's less than a 30-minute drive to each house, even though the routes are different. As a dual-income couple, Cody and I value independence and privacy. We manage our money separately, contributing a set amount each month for household expenses and saving the rest individually. This arrangement works well for us, but Fee doesn't approve. She believes a couple shouldn't keep things private from each other or talk about privacy. To her, a real family should share everything. I sometimes feel that Fee finds fault with everything I do simply because she doesn't like me. She adores Cody, her son, and I often feel like an outsider. She also criticizes us for not having children yet. Even though it's a sensitive topic for me, I wish she wouldn't bring it up every time we meet, but she does, so I've started staying late at work just to avoid her. One incident with Fee, though, was especially hard to forgive. It happened right before my best friend's wedding. This wedding was extra special because my friend was moving abroad afterward, and we wouldn't see each other often anymore. A week before the wedding, Cody's father, Andy, asked me to attend an important business reception with him. I respectfully declined, as my friend's wedding was a priority for me. The only thing that would make me miss it would be an emergency in my family. But that evening, when I came home, my in-laws were at our house. The moment I walked in, Fee confronted me angrily, saying, "Liliana, how could you refuse Andy's request? You're Cody's wife. Family obligations should come first, and your refusal is unacceptable. You need to rethink your priorities." Fee yelled at me, and Cody was there, too, but he didn't say anything at first. Later, I learned that the reception was very important for the future of the company, but to me, my best friend's wedding was just as meaningful. I told Fee, "I understand what you're both saying, but my best friend's wedding is an important event for me, and I don't want to miss it. Besides, I'm not even an employee at Andy's company." Then, to my surprise, Cody spoke up. "Can't you make an exception this time?" he asked. "This is really about the company's survival. I'm going, too, and it's a family effort. We can make it up to you for missing the wedding. This is a family crisis, can't you help us?" I was stunned. Cody knew how much I'd been looking forward to this wedding, so I never expected him to say that. Then Andy added, "I understand your point, Liliana, but this time, we really need your help." The pressure was intense, and it was hard to refuse. In the end, I reluctantly agreed to skip my best friend's wedding. When I explained the situation to my friend, she understood and was more concerned about how I was feeling than anything else. I felt lucky to have such a supportive friend, even though I felt guilty about missing her big day. Once I decided to attend the reception, I put my energy into making it a success. On the day of the event, Cody and I arrived early. I tried calling Fee to check in, but she didn't answer her phone. Finally, my in-laws arrived just 10 minutes before the reception was supposed to start, looking disheveled, with messy hair and wrinkled clothes. I was shocked and asked, "Fee, what happened?" "Today's an important reception. Why do you look like this?" She awkwardly replied, "I just overslept." And Liliana, "Make sure you're not rude today." I was so close to snapping back. "I don't want to hear that from you." But somehow, I held my tongue and kept my composure. During the reception, however, Fee made several rude comments to our guests, not realizing how inappropriate she sounded. Fee seemed to think her comments at the reception were funny, but the guests' awkward smiles showed they didn't find her jokes amusing. As expected, we didn't secure the contract, and the event ended unsuccessfully. I thought to myself that if I'd known it would go like this, I would have gone to my best friend's wedding instead. I felt frustrated, having missed such an important day with my friend, only to end up at this disastrous reception. To make things worse, my in-laws didn't seem to see anything wrong with how it turned out. They even said things like, "After such a big event and no contract, it's like dealing with con artists. Good thing we didn't make a deal with such strange people." I was speechless. They were completely oblivious to the reality of the situation. After this incident, I felt even more uncomfortable around my in-laws and started avoiding them as much as I could. But there was one thing I couldn't escape: Cody's family tradition of going on an annual family trip. This tradition had started when Cody was a kid, and it continued even after we got married. I was expected to join every year, but these trips were exhausting for me. I was always the one stuck with the chores and logistics, driving, booking hotels, researching tourist spots, and handling all the tedious tasks. If I ever tried to voice my opinion or suggest something, I was immediately shut down and told, "Don't overstep." Even when we visited tourist spots, I was often left behind at the hotel and didn't get to see the places I was interested in. Honestly, I dreaded these trips every year and even hoped I might fall ill on the day so I wouldn't have to go. The time for this year's family trip arrived, and even though my in-laws claimed they were financially tight, they insisted on planning another lavish trip. As usual, I was given the job of finding and booking the hotel. I put a lot of effort into planning, hoping to keep Fee, who's always quick to complain, in a good mood. Since I don't drink, I'm also expected to be the driver, which I don't mind because it lets me avoid some of their conversations. But just before the trip, a crisis happened. My mom collapsed and was in critical condition. Under these circumstances, going on a trip wasn't even an option for me. I was overwhelmed with worry and knew I needed to get to my mom as soon as possible. Since it was the day before the trip, I told Cody I was canceling and started preparing to go to the hospital. Cody offered to come with me, but I declined. It felt like he was assuming the worst about my mom's condition, and I didn't want to hear that. Together, we went to tell Fee that we wouldn't be going on the trip. She exploded in anger, saying, "You're saying you can't go on the trip I planned? If you don't come, you're no longer family. As my son's wife, you should prioritize this family trip. Isn't that right, Cody?" She looked at Cody, clearly expecting him to agree, and cut him off when he seemed like he wanted to say something different. I was so shocked by her reaction that I didn't know what to say. Nothing was more important than being with my mom in her critical state. Just then, my brother called. He told me that while mom's condition was serious, she was stable. Unfortunately, because of a contagious illness outbreak, I couldn't visit her right now. He mentioned that if she recovers, I could come for a short visit later, so there was no rush to be there immediately. Hearing this, I hesitated, unsure of what to do next. Sensing my hesitation, my brother asked what was wrong. I explained my situation to my brother, sharing my dilemma about the trip. He seemed a bit frustrated but suggested a solution I hadn't considered. The trip destination was actually near my parents' home. He assured me that if my mom's condition worsened, I could get to the hospital quickly from the hotel. Since I wasn't allowed to visit her in the hospital yet, staying at home or at the hotel wouldn't really make a difference. Taking his advice, I told Fee, "All right, I'll go on the trip." She responded with, "Goodness, if you had said that from the start, I wouldn't have had to get angry. Marrying someone so naive is such a hassle. Remember, if you don't come, it's divorce." She even added, "I'll have to re-educate you from now on." Cody looked surprised by her comments, but we agreed to go on the trip under the condition that I could leave for the hospital if needed. Fee smirked and remarked, "It'd be a problem if our driver suddenly disappeared, right? You're part of this family now, so our needs come first. Remember your role as my son's wife. This is an important family event." Her smug attitude annoyed me, but I kept quiet to avoid further conflict. On the day of the trip, I was so worried about my mom that I couldn't stop checking my phone. Meanwhile, Fee had already started drinking beer in the morning, turning the back seat of my car, where I was the designated driver, into a mini party. I was surprised to see Cody joining in on the drinking, but since everyone had cleared their schedules for this trip, I reminded myself to let them enjoy it. Throughout the drive, Fee made constant demands, asking me to stop for the bathroom or to pick up more alcohol from a store. I felt like a chauffeur, but I was prepared to endure it. Then, my phone rang. It was my brother. He told me that Mom had survived, her condition had stabilized, and she had regained consciousness. Her diagnosis was subarachnoid hemorrhage. I still couldn't fully relax since there were concerns about potential after effects from my mom's condition. It was comforting, though, to have my brother updating me regularly. Feeling anxious, I shared the news of my mom's recovery with my in-laws, but Fee responded with, "If she's better, there's no need to bother us with this. You're making a big deal out of nothing." Andy chimed in, "Exactly. Don't spoil our trip with grim news. We're here to enjoy ourselves." I was shocked and disgusted by their attitude. It made me feel like these people were strangers rather than family. Throughout the trip, they made a noisy scene at the hotel, drinking and partying in ways that were embarrassing. This experience only deepened my distrust of my in-laws. Thankfully, my mom's condition stayed stable, so I didn't have to rush to the hospital. We completed the trip and returned home, which was a relief. While I was sorting through our laundry after the trip, Fee showed up at our house. She said, "You have a dryer here, right? We don't have one, so let me use yours," and appeared with a big pile of laundry. Feeling exasperated, I replied, "There's a laundromat with dryers nearby. I have my own laundry to do, and I'm using the dryer right now, so it's not possible." Fee huffed, "Always so stingy. Once you're done, just finish mine too. I'll pick it up tomorrow," and tried to leave her laundry in our washroom. Cody stepped in and said firmly, "Go to a laundromat. Liliana is tired, and she has work tomorrow. It's not possible." Fee was furious. Feeling that her son was defending me, she stormed out, slamming the door and leaving her laundry behind, shouting insults as she went. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if things could have gone differently that day and changed what happened next. A little later, Fee returned and said, "During the trip, I realized something. Liliana, you don't seem to understand what it means to be married to Cody. We might face more issues like this in the future, and since we couldn't settle it, I think it's time for you to make a decision." She then placed a family contract and divorce papers on the table. I was stunned. A family contract? The idea was absurd and only reinforced my belief that she was unreasonable. But Cody's response was the silver lining. He said, "I have something to say. If you keep forcing your one-sided views on us, I'll cut ties. I can't put up with this anymore. Do you even understand who Liliana is? She's my wife, not your servant or your housekeeper. You're the one misunderstanding your role here." Fee was shocked. Cody had rarely confronted her before, not because he agreed with her, but to avoid conflict. She turned her anger toward me, accusing me of changing. "Cody, since marrying you, he's different. He used to be so sweet. It's insane for him to talk to me like that. You must have brainwashed him. Turn him back into the old Cody," she demanded. Cody stood his ground and said, "The one doing the brainwashing is you. You always explode without listening to anyone else's opinion. Honestly, you've been a toxic parent, never letting me live the life I wanted. Instead of accepting our marriage, you've been taking it out on Liliana. Enough is enough. I'm not getting a divorce, and if you have a problem with that, you should stay out of our lives." Hearing this, Fee turned to Andy, who was with her, and burst into tears.
I stared at my phone screen, reading Nathan's text message for the 15th time. "Getting married next week? Thought you should know." Just like that. 8 words to crush what remained of my world. My name is Amelia, and 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect marriage. Now I was sitting in the break room of Marshall's department store, gripping my phone so hard my knuckles turned white, while my ex-husband casually announced his engagement to another woman. "You okay there? You look like you're about to snap that phone in half." Jenna dropped into the chair across from me, unwrapping her sandwich. She took one look at my face and set it down. "What happened?" I slid the phone across the table. She read the message, and something shifted in her expression. Not just sympathy, recognition. "Nathan's getting married," I said, my voice flat. "To someone named Vanessa Crawford." Jenna's sandwich fell from her hands. "Vanessa Crawford, dark hair, green eyes, always wearing expensive jewelry. You know her?" "Oh, honey," Jenna whispered. "She's the reason my brother lost everything 2 years ago. Marriage scam. She's done it at least 3 times that I know of." The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as my mind processed this information. 3 times. Marriage scam. The pieces started clicking together. Nathan's sudden distance 6 months ago, the missing money from our joint account, the rushed divorce. I need to warn him, I said, reaching for my phone. Jenna's hand shot out, stopping me. He won't believe you. Trust me, we tried warning her last victim. Men like that, they only learn the hard way. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Nathan. By the way, we're using the beach house for the ceremony. Hope that's cool. The beach house. My grandmother's beach house. The one I'd inherited and foolishly put in both our names because I believed in forever. I think I'm going to throw up, I managed. No, Jenna said, her voice hardening. You're going to get even. I looked up at her, surprised by the steel in her tone. She pulled out her own phone, scrolling through old photos until she found what she was looking for. There she was, Vanessa Crawford, draped over some man who wasn't Nathan, both of them wearing wedding rings. The timestamp showed it was from 18 months ago. That's her with husband number 3, Jenna explained, before she cleaned out his bank account and disappeared. My hand stopped shaking. The nausea was replaced by something else, something cold and clarifying. Tell me everything you know about her. You sure you want to go down this road? Jenna asked, but she was already pulling up more photos, more evidence. He's using my grandmother's house to marry her, I said. The house she left me because she wanted it to be filled with family and love. So, yes, I'm sure. Jenna nodded slowly. Okay then. But we do this smart. We do this right. She glanced at her watch. My shift ends in an hour. Meet me at Murphy's bar after work. I'll bring everything I have on her. I stood up, smoothing down my store uniform. The break room suddenly felt too small, too confined. I should call Marcus, I said, thinking of my brother, the lawyer. He'll want to know about this. Good idea. You'll need him. Jenna's eyes met mine. Just remember, once you start this, there's no going back. I picked up my phone, composing a new message to Nathan. Congratulations. Hope you got a prenup. Then I deleted it without sending. Some responses were better served cold, planned, and perfect. The break room door swung shut behind me as I headed back to the sales floor, already mapping out the first steps of what needed to be done. Nathan thought he could take everything from me twice. He was about to learn otherwise. Marcus's law office always smelled like leather and coffee. I sat across from his massive desk, watching him scroll through the photos Jenna had sent me. His expression darkened with each swipe of his finger. This is definitely the same woman, he said, placing his phone down with the careful precision I recognized from childhood, the way he'd set down a chess piece before declaring checkmate. And you're sure about the beach house? Nathan's text was pretty clear. I traced the edge of the leather chair arm. He's using Grandma Rose's house for his wedding to a known con artist. The house we specifically advised you not to put in joint names. Marcus's tone wasn't accusatory, but I flinched anyway. Can you help me stop them? Legally, no. The divorce agreement gives him equal right to use it. He leaned back, studying me. But that's not why you're really here, is it? Before I could answer, the office door burst open. Our mother swept in, designer handbag swinging. There you are. I've been calling both of you all morning. Mother, I'm with a client, Marcus said smoothly. I'm your sister, I reminded him. Still billable hours. He winked, then turned to our mother. What's wrong? Nathan called. She dropped into the chair beside me. He wants us all at the wedding. Says it wouldn't feel right without his former in-laws there. Isn't that sweet? My stomach lurched. You're not going. Of course we are. Henry's already confirmed. Nathan's like a son to us. A son who cheated on your daughter and married someone else 6 months later, Marcus pointed out. Mother waved her hand dismissively. People make mistakes. Besides, this Vanessa seems lovely. She's already invited me to join their country club committee. I exchanged looks with Marcus. Of course, Vanessa would target our parents. They were exactly the kind of wealthy, socially connected marks she preferred. Mom, I started, but Marcus cut me off with a slight headshake. Mother, why don't you let me review the country club paperwork before you sign anything? He suggested. Just standard procedure. Always the lawyer, she sighed, standing. Amelia, darling, please tell me you're not going to make this difficult. Nathan's happy. You should be too. After she left, I slumped in my chair. She's going to get hurt. Not if we move quickly. Marcus pulled up another document on his computer. Jenna's brother wasn't Vanessa's only victim. I found 3 more cases, different names, but same MO. She gets close to wealthy families, builds trust, then disappears with everything she can grab. We have to show Nathan. He won't believe it. Men like him, their egos won't let them see they're being played. Marcus typed something else. But I might have another angle. The beach house's deed has an interesting clause. Grandma Rose stipulated it must be used for family gatherings in good faith. What does that mean? It means, he smiled, that if someone tries to use it for fraudulent purposes, ownership reverts solely to her blood descendants. Hope flickered. So, if we can prove Vanessa's planning to scam Nathan, the house becomes yours entirely. He held up a warning finger. But we'd need solid evidence, and getting it might require you to play nice. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Need to discuss wedding details. Dinner tomorrow? Marcus read it over my shoulder. Perfect opportunity. To do what? To make him think you're accepting this, that you're moving on. He met my eyes. Think you can handle that? I thought of our grandmother, how she'd love that beach house, how she'd wanted it to stay in the family. I thought of Jenna's brother, broken and bankrupted. I thought of my mother, already falling for Vanessa's act. I can handle anything, I said, typing my reply to Nathan. Dinner sounds great. So happy for you both. Marcus nodded approvingly. Just remember, the best revenge isn't served cold, it's served with a smile. I gathered my things, pausing at the door. What if we're wrong? What if he really loves her? Then he's still the man who cheated on my sister and gave away her inheritance to a stranger. Marcus's voice hardened. Either way, he needs to learn actions have consequences. I stepped out into the hallway, my phone already buzzing with Nathan's response about dinner details. Time to see if those acting classes in college would finally pay off. Murphy's bar hadn't changed since college. Same sticky floors, same dim lighting, same corner booth where Jenna waited with a manila folder and 2 whiskey sours. I slid in across from her, still wearing my work uniform. You're not going to like what I found, she said, pushing the folder toward me. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Vanessa with different men, different rings, different names. But one photo made my hands shake. Nathan and Vanessa outside my grandmother's beach house, dated 3 months before our divorce. They knew each other, I whispered. While we were still married. There's more. Jenna pulled out a document. Remember how Nathan insisted on handling the house maintenance last year? Look who we hired for the appraisal. The company name jumped out, Crawford and Associates Real Estate Valuations. Vanessa's family business, Jenna explained. They deliberately undervalued the property before your divorce. Nathan knew exactly what he was doing. The whiskey burned going down. How did you get all this? My brother kept everything from when she took him for $250,000. Police wouldn't touch it. Too much, he said, she said. She paused. But there's something else you need to see. She pulled up a video on her phone. The footage was grainy, security camera quality, showing Vanessa in an intense conversation with someone in a parking lot. The timestamp was from last week. Is that... I leaned closer. Your father? Yeah. Jenna's voice was gentle. They've been meeting regularly. I think she's already working him for investment money. My phone buzzed. A text from Nathan about tomorrow's dinner. The screen blurred as tears threatened to fall. I can't do this, I said. I can't sit across from them and pretend. Yes, you can. Jenna grabbed my hand. Because if you don't, your parents will lose everything, just like my brother did. The bar door opened, letting in a blast of cold air and a familiar figure. Marcus strode toward us, his suit jacket slung over one shoulder. Got your message, he said to Jenna, then looked at me. How bad? Dad's involved, I managed. Marcus swore under his breath, scanning the documents. This changes things. We need to move faster. The dinner tomorrow, Jenna suggested. It's perfect. Get them talking about the wedding plans, the house? No, Marcus's voice was sharp. Too risky. If they suspect we're onto them, then what? I stood up, anger finally breaking through. We wait while they steal our parents blind? While they turn our family's home into another crime scene? Sit down. Marcus hissed, glancing around. You're not thinking clearly. Neither is Dad, apparently, but that's not stopping him from. Your father, a new voice cut in, is trying to protect you. We all turned. There stood Henry, my father, looking older than I'd ever seen him. He slid into the booth beside me. How long have you been here? I asked. Long enough? He picked up one of the photos. I've been meeting with Vanessa because I'm gathering evidence. Have been since Nathan first introduced her to us. The silence that followed was deafening. Why didn't you tell me? I finally asked. Because you're my daughter. I wanted to spare you this. He spread the photos across the table. But it seems you found your way here anyway. Does Mom know? Your mother sees the best in everyone. It's why I fell in love with her. It's also why I have to protect her. He looked at each of us. So, what's our next move? Marcus leaned forward. We have dinner tomorrow. We let them think they're winning. And then we show them what happens when you mess with our family. I finished. My phone buzzed again. Nathan sending the restaurant details. I looked at the message, then at my father's determined face, at Marcus's calculating expression, at Jenna's fierce loyalty. I'll wear the blue dress, I said, the one Nathan always hated. For the first time that night, everyone smiled. Tomorrow's dinner would be a performance, but not the one Nathan and Vanessa were expecting. They thought they were the players, but they were about to become the played. The blue dress felt like armor as I walked into Salvatore's. Nathan was already there, holding court at our old favorite table, Vanessa draped across his arm like a designer scarf. My father's intel had been right. She was wearing the tennis bracelet from her last mark. Amelia! Nathan stood, arms open for a hug I deftly avoided by pretending to adjust my chair. You look different. Divorce agrees with me. I smiled, watching his confidence flicker. Vanessa leaned forward, all warmth and concern. Nathan's told me so much about you. I hope we can be friends. Of course. I touched the recording device Marcus had disguised as a pendant. I'd love to hear how you two met. Their stories didn't match. Nathan claimed they'd bumped into each other at a coffee shop 3 months ago. Vanessa said it was at a charity gala 4 months ago. Small inconsistencies, but telling ones. The beach house is perfect for the ceremony, Vanessa gushed, though it needs some updating. That old wiring? Wiring? I set down my wine glass. It was completely rewired last year. The inspection says otherwise. Nathan pulled out his phone. Actually, I wanted to discuss that. The renovation costs are your problem now? I cut him off, remembering Marcus's warning not to engage about the house yet. Vanessa's hand slipped under the table, probably reaching for Nathan's knee. Her tell, according to Jenna's notes, she was about to make a play. Actually, she said, we were hoping you might want to sell your share. Start fresh. Funny you should mention that. I pulled out my own phone, pulling up the photos Dad had taken. I was at the beach house yesterday. The wiring's fine, but I did find something interesting in the garage. Nathan's face changed. He knew what was in that garage, boxes of financial records my grandmother had kept, including details of every property transaction in the family for the past 30 years. We should order, he said quickly. The veal here is excellent. It's fascinating reading, I continued. Especially the part about Crawford and Associates. Your family's company has quite a history, Vanessa. Though I noticed they operated under different names before. The warmth in her eyes turned arctic. I don't discuss business at dinner. No, that's not what Timothy Chen said, or Robert Walsh, or my father. Nathan's fork clattered against his plate. Your father? Oh, didn't she tell you? They've been having the most interesting meetings. I turned to Vanessa. Dad says hi, by the way. He particularly enjoyed your pitch about the offshore investments. Vanessa stood abruptly. Powder room, she muttered, grabbing her purse. Don't bother checking your phone, I called after her. The signal's already been blocked. Once she was gone, Nathan leaned forward. What are you doing? Protecting my family, something you used to care about. You don't understand? I understand perfectly. You needed money after that failed real estate deal last year. The one you hid from me. Vanessa offered a solution, didn't she? Undervalue the beach house, split the property and the divorce, then sell it for its real worth later. It's not that simple. It never is with con artists. I stood up. You have 24 hours to call off the wedding and walk away. After that, everything I have goes to the FBI. You're bluffing. Try me. I dropped a USB drive on the table. Consider it a wedding present. Copies of everything. The fake appraisals, the wire transfers, the previous marriages. Even that interesting offshore account in your name. His face went pale. How did you? You're not the only one who can play games, Nathan. I gathered my things. 24 hours. Oh, and when Vanessa gets back, tell her Timothy Chen says the statute of limitations isn't up yet. I walked out of Salvatore's feeling lighter than I had in months. In my purse, my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. Dad's contact at the FBI is ready. Sure you want to do this? I thought about Nathan's face when I mentioned the offshore account, an account I'd completely invented. His reaction told me everything I needed to know. There were more secrets, deeper betrayals. I'm sure, I typed back. Time to let the storm break. 3 a.m, and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. Nathan's number flashed on the screen for the 12th time. I let it go to voicemail, like the others, and returned to sorting through the stack of papers spread across my bedroom floor. The doorbell rang. Then again, and again. I opened my apartment door to find Vanessa, mascara streaked down her face, designer purse clutched like a shield. We need to talk. She pushed past me into the apartment. Whatever you think you know. I know enough. I left the door open. Get out. You don't understand. She dropped onto my couch. Nathan's not who you think he is. He's not who I thought he was either. Something in her voice made me pause. What do you mean? Check your email, now. I pulled up my phone, found a new message from an anonymous address. The attachments showed financial records, not just Nathan's offshore accounts, but transfers to shell companies, dates stretching back years before our marriage. He's been running his own game, Vanessa said quietly. Using women like me to access wealthy families, then disappearing with their investments. I was supposed to be his next mark. My hands shook. You expect me to believe you're the victim here? I expect you to look at the evidence. She pulled out more documents. Your father isn't investigating me. Nathan's been feeding him false information, setting him up for a massive investment fraud. The beach house? It's already been sold. The paperwork goes through tomorrow morning. The room spun. I grabbed the wall for support. That's not possible. The deed was transferred last week. Nathan forged your signature. She met my eyes. Check the county records if you don't believe me. My phone buzzed again. Marcus this time. Turn on the news, his text read. The TV flickered to life, showing breaking news. Local investment manager arrested in multi-million-dollar fraud scheme. The manager's face filled the screen. My father's oldest friend and business partner. Nathan's cleaning house, Vanessa said. Removing anyone who might expose him, your father's next. Why are you telling me this? Because I made a mistake thinking I could beat him at his own game. She stood up. And because your brother's FBI contact, he works for Nathan. My phone rang again, my mother this time. Dad's gone, she sobbed when I answered. He left a note about meeting Nathan, but his phone's dead and... Call Marcus, I cut in. Tell him to meet us at the beach house, now. After my mother hung up, I turned to Vanessa. If you're lying, I'm not. She pulled out her phone, showing me surveillance photos of Nathan with other women, other families. I've been gathering evidence for months, but he's always one step ahead. Why should I trust you? Because right now, I'm the only one who knows where he's taking your father. She headed for the door. Coming? I grabbed my keys and the USB drive containing everything we'd gathered. The revenge I'd planned suddenly felt small, childish compared to what we were facing. He'll be expecting us, I said as we rushed down the stairs. Good, Vanessa's voice hardened. Let him. I didn't spend 3 years tracking him just to let him disappear again. In the parking lot, another text from Marcus. Dad's car found abandoned at Marina, police en route. The boat, Vanessa and I said simultaneously. The one registered to Crawford and Associates, she added. He uses it to move money offshore. We jumped into my car. As I pulled onto the street, my phone rang one last time. Nathan's voice filled the speaker. You should have taken the deal at dinner, he said. Now your father gets to learn what happens when people don't mind their own business. The line went dead. I pressed the accelerator, memories flooding back. Nathan's mysterious business trips, the missing documents, the way he'd insisted on handling all our finances. How long? I asked Vanessa. How long have you really been after him? Since he killed my sister. She stared straight ahead. 5 years ago, same setup. She figured it out too late. The marina was 20 minutes away. We had one chance to stop this, to save my father, to end Nathan's game once and for all. I just hoped we weren't already too late. The marina's security lights cast long shadows across the water. Nathan's boat, the sweet revenge. How had I missed the irony? Bobbed gently at the end of the pier. No lights, no movement, just the quiet lapping of waves. There, Vanessa pointed to a figure moving near the stern. That's not Nathan. Marcus, I whispered, recognizing my brother's silhouette. He turned, face ghostly in the dim light. Stay back, he called out. He's got Dad below deck. I took a step forward. Metal clicked behind me. That's far enough. Nathan's voice, but different now. Colder, more precise. The Nathan I thought I knew had always been a performance. Drop the phone, Amelia. My phone clattered onto the dock. In my peripheral vision, Vanessa had disappeared. You too, Marcus, Nathan said. Though I have to admit, you played your part beautifully. Almost had me convinced you were really helping her. Marcus didn't move. It's over, Nathan. The real FBI is already what? Following false leads across 3 states? Nathan laughed. You really think I didn't have contingencies? Your sister's not the only one who knows how to plan revenge. Where's my father? My voice shook. Safe, for now. He moved closer, gun steady. You know what's funny? I actually liked your family, made it harder to do what needed to be done, but business is business. Was any of it real? I asked, though I already knew the answer. The beach house was. His voice softened slightly. I really did love that place. Your grandmother had excellent taste. The new owners got a bargain. Movement caught my eye. Vanessa, creeping along the adjacent dock. Nathan saw my glance and spun around. The gun went off. Marcus tackled Nathan from behind. They crashed onto the dock, the gun skittering away. I lunged for it, but Nathan's foot caught my ankle. I slammed down hard, wood splintering my palms. Amelia! My father's voice, weak but alive from below deck. The fuel line. Another shot cracked through the night. Marcus stumbled backward, clutching his shoulder. Nathan scrambled for the gun. You want revenge? He snarled, aiming at me. Here's what revenge gets you. Vanessa appeared behind him, a flare gun raised. Remember Claire? She asked. Nathan's eyes widened in recognition. The flare lit up the night, missing Nathan but striking the boat's hull. Flames erupted instantly. Dad! I screamed, running toward the cabin. Smoke poured from below deck. The fuel line's cut, my father called, stronger now. He rigged it to... The explosion knocked me backward. Heat seared my face as the boat's cabin erupted in flames. Through the fire, I saw Nathan running, Vanessa in pursuit. Get Dad! Marcus shouted, pressing his hand against his bleeding shoulder. I dove into the water, fighting through burning debris. The cabin door was locked. Through the window, I saw my father struggling with ropes, binding his hands. Something heavy hit the water beside me. A fire extinguisher. Marcus, thinking clearer than I was. I grabbed it, smashed the window, and pulled my father through just as the second explosion rocked the boat. We surfaced gasping. Marcus helped drag us onto the dock as emergency vehicles screamed in the distance. Nathan, I coughed. Gone. Marcus grimaced. Vanessa too. My father sat up slowly, his wrists raw from the ropes. The documents, he wheezed. In my jacket pocket, everything we need to prove. But the jacket was gone, burned away with the boat and all our evidence. 5 years of Vanessa's investigation, all my carefully gathered proof, up in flames. He planned this, I realized. All of it. The dinner, the threats, everything to get us here with all the evidence in one place. Marcus's phone buzzed. A text from Nathan. Sweet revenge indeed. Give your sister my love. I stared at the burning wreckage of the boat, of our case against him. We had nothing left. No proof, no leverage, not even the beach house. Just a wounded brother, a traumatized father, and the bitter taste of failure. He won, I whispered. No. My father's voice was steel. He just showed us exactly who he is, and now we know what we're really fighting. The marina burned behind us, lighting up the night with all our destroyed hopes. But in the flames, I saw something else too. The truth about revenge, about justice, about what it really means to win. 3 days after the marina fire, Jenna called. Turn on Channel 7, now. Nathan stood at a podium outside the courthouse, playing the victim perfectly. As a victim of investment fraud myself, I'm cooperating fully with authorities to help other families recover their assets. The camera panned to show my father in handcuffs, being led to a police car. My doorbell rang. Vanessa stood there, bleeding from a cut above her eye. I found him. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to the private airstrip where Nathan kept his real escape plan. A chartered plane ready for a one-way flight to a non-extradition country. He'll be here within the hour, Vanessa said, checking her phone. Your brother's text bought us time, making Nathan think the FBI was closing in on the west side of town. And the real FBI? Still working through the false leads. She pulled out a small recorder. But this might change that. The recording played, Nathan's voice discussing the marina setup, the fraudulent investments, everything, including Claire's murder. How did you hit and mic during our last conversation, before he figured out who I really was? She touched her bruised face. He wasn't happy about that revelation. Movement at the hangar entrance caught our attention. Nathan emerged carrying a briefcase. That's it, Vanessa whispered. All the account information, the real documents, everything he took from everyone. I stepped out of the shadows. Going somewhere? Nathan froze, then smiled, that same charming smile that had once made me fall in love. I was wondering when you'd show up. It's over, Nathan. Is it? Your father's being charged with fraud. Marcus is under investigation. The beach house is gone. Seems like I'm the only one walking away clean. Not quite. Vanessa emerged, holding up the recorder. Remember our last conversation? His smile faltered. You really think anyone will believe? They'll believe the offshore account records, I cut in. The ones Mom's friend at the bank pulled this morning. They'll believe the witness testimony from your other victims, and they'll definitely believe this. I held up my phone, showing the live stream currently broadcasting to the FBI's tip line. Nathan lunged for the briefcase. Vanessa moved faster, but he was ready. The gun appeared in his hand. You know what your problem is, Amelia, he said, backing toward the plane. You always thought revenge was about justice. It's not. It's about power, about winning. No, I replied. It's about truth. The hangar lights flooded on. FBI agents emerged from behind planes, weapons raised. Marcus stepped forward, his injured arm in a sling. Actually, he said, it's about patience and having a sister who keeps really good financial records. Nathan's gun swung toward Marcus. I tackled him from behind, sending us both crashing into the concrete. The briefcase burst open, papers scattering. You really think this changes anything? Nathan spat blood. I'll still walk away, I always do. Not this time. Vanessa picked up the recorder she'd deliberately dropped earlier, the one he'd been focused on. While you were watching this, the real evidence was already being uploaded. Everything, Nathan. Every account, every victim, every lie. Including Claire? He asked quietly. Especially Claire. As the FBI led him away, Nathan looked back at me. For a moment, I saw something crack in his perfect facade. Fear, maybe, or regret. I did love you, he said. In the beginning? I know. That's what made it work. The briefcase's contents were already being cataloged as evidence. 5 years of schemes, of destroyed lives, of carefully planned revenge, all of it ending not with a dramatic showdown, but with paperwork and procedures. Was it worth it? Marcus asked, watching Nathan disappear into a police car. I thought about the beach house, about all we'd lost, about the difference between revenge and justice. Ask me tomorrow, I said. Vanessa touched her sister's photo on her phone screen. Tomorrow's good. Tomorrow's when the real work begins. The sun rose over the airstrip, painting everything in new light. Sometimes revenge isn't about destroying someone else. Sometimes it's about finding the truth, even when that truth hurts more than the lies ever did. The beach house keys felt heavy in my palm. After Nathan's conviction, the property reversion clause had kicked in. Grandma Rose's final gift to me. Standing in the driveway, watching the sunset paint the waves orange, I almost expected to see Nathan's car pull up, his easy smile ready with another lie. Instead, it was Marcus who appeared, carrying a box of old files. "Last of the victim statements," he said. "Restitution hearings start next week." I unlocked the front door, breathing in the familiar scent of sea air and old wood. The furniture was still covered in sheets, like ghosts of a life I'd thought I wanted. "Mom's asking about visiting," Marcus said, setting down the box. "Dad too, once the doctors clear him. They can come whenever they're ready." I pulled off one sheet, revealing Grandma Rose's favorite armchair. "Though we might want to replace some things first." Speaking of replacing things, he handed me an envelope. "This came to my office this morning, from Nathan's attorney." Inside was a letter, Nathan's precise handwriting somehow smaller than I remembered. "I kept one truth from you. The night I met you wasn't random. I chose you because you were kind, because you believed in second chances. I thought that made you weak. I was wrong. It made you stronger than I could ever be. The house is yours. It always should have been." And "There's more," Marcus said quietly. "The offshore accounts we couldn't trace? He gave them up. Every victim gets their money back. Even Vanessa's sister's family. Why now? Maybe the same reason you're here instead of selling this place." He gestured around the room. "Some things matter more than winning." My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. "Claire would have liked you. Thank you for helping me find the truth, even if it wasn't the one I expected." I tucked the letter away, unopened. Some truths didn't need to be read to be understood. "Help me with these sheets?" I asked Marcus. We uncovered the furniture piece by piece, letting light back into rooms that had held too many shadows. In the study, I found one of Nathan's old notebooks, filled with calculations and marks against people who'd trusted him. "Should we keep any of this for evidence?" Marcus asked. I shook my head, carrying the notebook to the fireplace. "We have enough truth, some things we just need to let go." As the pages curled and blackened in the flames, I thought about revenge, how it had started as a simple desire to hurt Nathan back, but had become something else. Something that exposed not just his lies, but the complicated truths about justice, family, and forgiveness. "You know," Marcus said, watching the fire, "Grandma Rose used to say the house would tell us what it needed. Maybe it needed all of this, to clear out the old stories, make room for new ones." Through the window, I could see Jenna's car pulling up. She'd been helping coordinate support groups for Nathan's other victims, turning pain into purpose. "You really keeping the house?" Marcus asked. "Yes," I said, surprising myself with how certain I felt. "But not as a monument to what happened, as a reminder of what matters more." He raised an eyebrow. "Which is?" I opened the front door, letting in the sound of waves and Jenna's laughter as she carried groceries up the walk. In the distance, storm clouds gathered over the ocean, but here, in this moment, everything felt clear. "The truth," I said. "Even when it hurts, even when it's not the truth we wanted." Marcus nodded, understanding what I wasn't saying. About revenge and justice, about family and forgiveness, about the fine line between protecting ourselves and punishing others. The storm would come, as storms always do. But this time, I wasn't afraid of what it might wash away. Some foundations run deeper than betrayal, stronger than revenge. I stepped onto the porch, leaving the door open behind me. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying what hurt us. Sometimes it's about building something new from the ruins, something stronger than what was lost. The waves crashed against the shore, constant as truth, changing as forgiveness. I was ready for both.
I stand at my mother's grave, counting lies instead of flowers. 364 days of marriage, built on pretty words and hollow promises, all crumbling like the earth beneath my feet. The roses in my hands are starting to wilt, just like everything else Lucas touches. My name is Bailey, and I used to believe in fairy tales. Now I know better. Darling, we should head back to the house. Lucas's hand settles on my shoulder, warm and possessive. Your mother wouldn't want you standing out here all day. The laugh that bubbles up, Tastes bitter. Funny how everyone suddenly knows exactly what my mother would want. I shrug off his touch, watching his reflection in the polished granite. He's wearing the perfect grieving son-in-law expression, but his eyes keep darting toward the parking lot, where his mother waits in her Mercedes. Helen's prepared a lovely reception, he says, as if reading my thoughts. Everyone's waiting. Of course they are. Helen Evans never misses an opportunity to play the gracious matriarch, especially now that there's a business empire up for grabs. I've seen the way she circles my mother's legacy like a vulture, dropping hints about helping me manage the company, about how overwhelming it must all be. I need a minute, I tell Lucas, and he retreats with practiced understanding, always so careful to play his part in public. The funeral crowd has thinned, but I catch snippets of their whispers. Poor Bailey, they say. First her father, now her mother. Thank goodness she has Lucas and Helen to lean on. I dig my nails into my palms until the pain drowns out their voices. Uncle Paul appears at my side, solid and real, in a way that makes my chest ache. Ready to face the wolves, he asks quietly. I heard them, you know. The words slip out before I can stop them. Last night in the study, Lucas and Helen. Paul goes very still. What did you hear? Enough. I smooth my black dress, buying time. Helen was angry about something, the timing being wrong. Lucas kept saying they needed to wait, that I wasn't ready to discuss the company yet. My throat closes around the rest. How Lucas had sounded nothing like my husband. How his voice had carried that same calculating tone Helen uses when discussing acquisitions. Bailey, Paul starts, but I cut him off. Did Mom ever tell you about her suspicions? He hesitates, and in that pause, I hear everything my mother never said aloud. All those worried glances, the way she'd started reviewing company documents with increasing urgency after my engagement. Your mother was very good at reading people, he finally says, and very good at protecting what mattered. A burst of laughter drifts over from the parking lot. Helen's holding court by her car, Lucas at her side. The perfect mother-son duo, sharing some private joke while my mother lies cold in the ground. I need access to everything, I tell Paul. Every account, every contract, every piece of paper with the company's name on it. You think they're planning something? I turn to face him fully. I think my husband married me for more than just love, and I think it's time I found out exactly what my mother was trying to protect me from. Paul studies me for a long moment, then nods. Come by the office tomorrow. We'll start with the audit your mother ordered 3 months ago. She ordered an audit? Yes. His smile is grim. And made me promise not to tell anyone until until now. I look back at Lucas and Helen, their heads bent together in consultation. My mother's final gift wasn't just the company, it was a warning. Tomorrow then, I say, straightening my spine. It's time to see what my loving family's been hiding. The audit files spread across Paul's desk like a map of betrayal. Every highlighted transaction, every questionable transfer tells its own story. My coffee grows cold as I trace the pattern emerging from my mother's careful notes. She knew, I whisper, more to myself than to Paul. She knew, and she was building a case. Paul leans back in his chair, his face carved with shadows. Your mother started noticing discrepancies 6 months ago. Small amounts at first, then larger transfers. All perfectly documented, but what? The authorizations look legitimate. They have your signature. My stomach drops. That's impossible. The office door swings open, and Helen glides in like she owns the place. Lucas trails behind her, his usual easy smile nowhere in sight. Bailey, darling, we've been looking everywhere for you. Helen's voice drips honey, but her eyes are sharp as she surveys the papers scattered across the desk. Shouldn't you be resting? It's only been 3 days since the funeral. I slide the most damning documents under a folder. Just getting my bearings, Helen. The company won't run itself. Oh, sweetheart. She settles into the chair beside me, uninvited. That's exactly what we wanted to discuss. Lucas and I have been talking. and we think it might be best to consider selling. The room goes still. Even Paul stops pretending to organize his files. Selling. My voice sounds distant to my own ears. Lucas steps forward, hands spread, in what's meant to be a placating gesture. It's just, you're dealing with so much right now. The grief, the responsibility. Nobody expects you to shoulder this burden alone. Burden? The word tastes like acid. This company is my mother's legacy. Was. Helen corrects softly. Was her legacy. And now it's time to think about your future. Our future. She reaches for my hand, but I pull away. Bailey, Lucas tries again. Be reasonable. You've never even worked in corporate management. The board members answer to me now. I stand, needing the height advantage. And I'm not selling. Helen's mask slips for just a moment, something ugly flashing in her eyes. You're being emotional. This is business. No, I say. This is family, and you're not it. Lucas flinches like I've slapped him. Good. I think. Paul interrupts smoothly. We should table this discussion until Bailey's had time to review all the necessary documentation. Legal requirements, you understand. Helen rises, straightening her designer jacket. Of course, we only want what's best for Bailey. She pauses at the door. Oh, and darling, don't forget the charity gala tomorrow night. The board members will all be there, and appearances are so important right now. After they leave, I sink back into my chair, hands shaking. Well, Paul says quietly, that confirms it. They're after the company, have been all along. I pull out my phone, scrolling through photos, until I find what I'm looking for. A picture from last year's Christmas party. Look at this. Helen, talking to James Morton from the board. 6 months before Lucas and I even met. Paul leans in. Could be coincidence. Like these forged signatures? Like the fact that Lucas proposed right after Mom's diagnosis. I laugh, and it sounds hollow even to me. Some coincidences feel an awful lot like conspiracy. My phone buzzes. A text from Chloe. Found something. Meet me at the usual spot. ASAP. I gather the audit files, my mind already racing ahead. I need copies of everything. And Paul? Don't let anyone else access these records, especially not Lucas or Helen. Bailey. Paul's voice stops me at the door. Your mother, she wanted to protect you from this, from them. I know. I think of Helen's perfectly manicured hands, reaching for my mother's company, of Lucas's practiced concerned expression. But she's not here to fight them anymore. I am. The elevator doors close on Paul's worried face, and I check my phone again. Whatever Chloe's found, I hope it's enough to start dismantling the careful web of lies my husband and his mother have woven around me. Because tomorrow night at the gala, I'm done playing the grieving daughter they can manipulate. It's time to show them exactly whose daughter I really am. Chloe's hands tremble as she slides the USB drive across the coffee shop table. You need to see this now. Her voice carries none of its usual warmth. I had to call in 3 favors to get these bank records. I plug the drive into my laptop, and my world shifts on its axis. Transaction after transaction, all perfectly disguised as legitimate business expenses, flowing from company accounts into a maze of offshore holdings. At the center of it all, a familiar name, Evans Investment Group. There's more, Chloe says, tapping the screen. Look at the dates. The first transfer was made 2 weeks before Lucas asked me to marry him. The most recent, yesterday. My coffee cup shatters against the floor. Several patrons turn to stare, but I barely notice. How much? Total? Almost 4 million. Chloe reaches for my hand. Bailey, there's something else. I found emails between Helen and Lucas from before you met. They planned everything. The walls of the coffee shop seem to close in. I remember Lucas's first accidental meeting at my mother's charity event. How smoothly he'd worked his way into my life, into my heart. My phone buzzes. Lucas calling again. I silence it, but not before noticing 6 missed calls from Helen. I have to go to the office, I say, standing abruptly. The gala preparations. Screw the gala. Chloe's voice cuts through my haze. You need to call the police. Not yet. The clarity of that decision surprises me. I need to hear him say it. The drive to the office passes in a blur. When I arrive, Lucas is waiting in my office, looking perfectly at ease behind her desk. Where have you been? He stands, coming around to kiss me, but I step back. Helen's been trying to reach you about the gala arrangements. $4 million. He freezes. What? That's how much you and Helen have stolen so far. My voice sounds strange, detached. Was that the price tag on our marriage? Or did you charge extra for pretending to love me? Color drains from his face. Bailey, I can explain. Please do. Start with the emails, planning how you'd seduce the grieving daughter of a dying CEO. Or maybe explain how you forged my signature on those transfers. It wasn't like that. He runs his hands through his hair, a gesture I once found endearing. At first, yes, it was Helen's idea. The company was struggling. The laugh that escapes me sounds nothing like my own. There is no we, Lucas. There never was. I fell in love with you. He steps forward, desperate now. Yes, it started as a plan, but I really do love you. Helen pushed me into it. But you just kept stealing anyway? I pull out my phone, showing him the transaction records. Yesterday's transfer says otherwise. The mask slips entirely. His face hardens, becomes something I've never seen before. What do you want? The truth. For once, he laughs. Ugly and sharp. Fine. The truth? You were an easy mark. Daddy dead, mommy dying. So desperate for someone to love you that you never questioned anything. Helen said you'd be simple to handle, and she was right. Each word lands like a physical blow, but I force myself to stand straight. And now, his smile turns cruel. Now you're going to sign over controlling interest in the company, or Helen will make sure everyone knows about your mental breakdown after your mother's death. How you've been making irrational accusations, becoming paranoid. The board already thinks you're unstable. It won't take much to convince them. I reach for my desk phone, hitting the speaker button. Did you get all that, Paul? Lucas whirls around. Paul stands in the doorway, phone in hand, recording. Behind him, Helen's face has gone chalk white. Every word, Paul says quietly. Lucas lunges for the phone, but I'm already backing away, watching their carefully constructed world begin to crumble. Bailey, Helen starts, but I cut her off. The police are on their way. I suggest you both start practicing your explanations. I walk past them, head high. Oh, and Helen, don't worry about the gala. I'll make sure to tell everyone exactly why you couldn't attend. The police interview room feels smaller with each passing hour. Detective Martinez slides another photo across the table. Surveillance footage of Helen entering the company building late at night, 3 weeks before my mother's death. Mrs. Evans claims she had your authorization, Martinez says. Says you've been making rash decisions since your mother's diagnosis. My fingernails dig into my palms. And you believe her? What I believe doesn't matter. What matters is the board meeting she's called for tomorrow morning. The words hit like ice water. Paul bursts through the door before I can respond. Bailey, don't say another word. Detective, this interview is over. Outside, the evening air does nothing to clear my head. Paul grips my elbow, steering me toward his car. Helen's been busy. She's convinced 3 board members you're emotionally unstable. She can't. She already has. The emergency meeting is to vote on temporary leadership during your recovery period. His voice hardens. They're going to try to force you out. My phone chirps. A text from Lucas. It doesn't have to be this way. Meet me at home, please. Home. The word tastes like ash now. I need to get something from the house, I tell Paul. He starts to protest, but I cut him off. I know what I'm doing. The house is dark when I arrive, except for my mother's study. Lucas waits there, looking perfectly at ease in the room where I first kissed him, where he proposed, where my mother. You're sitting in her chair, I say. He doesn't move. Bailey, you're making this harder than it needs to be. Helen's offering a generous settlement. Walk away now. Keep your dignity intact. My dignity. Something burns behind my eyes. You married me for money, stole from my family, and now you're threatening my dignity. I'm trying to protect you. He stands, agitated. You think you know everything? Your mother wasn't the saint you imagine. Ask yourself why she really ordered that audit. Why she was meeting with corporate raiders behind closed doors. The room tilts slightly. What are you talking about? She was selling pieces of the company in secret. Helen found out, tried to stop her. Everything we did was to save this company from your mother's mistakes. I moved to my mother's desk, running my fingers along the wooden edge. You're lying. Check the safe. Behind the painting. The proof's all there. My hand freezes on the desk. How do you know about the safe? Lucas's face changes, just for a moment. A flash of something ugly, before the mask slips back into place. Because, a new voice says, I told him. Helen stands in the doorway, elegant as ever in her designer suit. Your mother got sloppy near the end. Started keeping records of her little side deals. We couldn't let her destroy everything we'd built. We? The pieces click into horrible place. You were business partners? Until she decided to go ethical on us. Helen's laugh is soft and cruel. Started talking about legacy and family values. She would have ruined everything. My fingers find the button under the desk. The one my mother showed me years ago. A silent alarm, she'd said. Just in case. The audit, I say slowly. She wasn't investigating Lucas's transfers. She was building a case against you. Smart girl. Helen moves closer. But not smart enough. Sign the company over tomorrow, or every dirty secret your mother tried to hide goes public. Her reputation, your family name, all of it burns. You really think you've won, don't you? I lean against the desk, feeling the weight of my mother's letter opener against my palm. But you forgot something important. And what's that? I smile, hearing sirens in the distance. My mother taught me to record everything. The study door bursts open. Detective Martinez leads the charge, officers flooding in with weapons drawn. As they read rights and snap handcuffs, I pull out my phone, stopping the recording app. Bailey, Lucas calls as they lead him away. You don't understand what you're doing. But I do. For the first time since my mother died, I understand perfectly. I pick up her framed photo from the desk. I promised to protect your legacy, Mom. I just didn't know from whom. The bail hearing takes less than an hour. I watch Helen and Lucas walk free, their lawyer's smug smile burning into my back as I leave the courthouse. Paul catches up to me on the steps. They won't stay free for long, he says. The evidence isn't enough. I keep walking, my heels clicking against marble. Helen's already spinning the story. Poor grieving daughter, imagining conspiracies, desperate for someone to blame. My phone buzzes. Another reporter asking for comment. Third one today. I silence it just as Chloe pulls up in her car. Board meeting in 30 minutes, she says as we climb in. And Bailey, it's bad, really bad. The executive floor is unusually quiet when we arrive. James Morton, head of the board, intercepts us before we reach the conference room. Bailey, a word. His office smells of expensive leather and victory. Helen's legal team contacted us this morning. They're filing a countersuit, defamation, harassment, malicious prosecution. Let them. They have documentation suggesting your mother was involved in insider trading. He slides a folder across his desk, dating back 5 years. My hands shake as I open it. Emails, contracts, meeting notes, all carefully selected to paint my mother as a criminal. These are fake, are they? James leans forward. Because Helen has witnesses willing to testify, respected business associates, who'll swear your mother was cutting illegal deals for years. And let me guess, this all goes away if I step down. The board would consider it a gesture of good faith. I stand, the chair scraping against hardwood. The meeting starts in 10 minutes. I'll give you my answer then. Paul and Chloe wait outside, faces grim. How bad? Paul asks. They're trying to destroy her reputation. My voice cracks. Everything she built, everything she stood for. Bailey. Chloe grabs my arm. Look. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I see Helen talking quietly with board members. Lucas stands nearby, that familiar charming smile in place. They've already won them over. I need 5 minutes, I tell them. Heading for my mother's office, our office. Inside, I sink into her chair, breathing in the lingering scent of her perfume. The photo on her desk shows us at my wedding, both of us smiling, neither knowing the snake we'd welcomed into our family. My phone buzzes again. Unknown number. Miss Turner? A woman's voice. Unfamiliar. My name is Sarah Chen. I worked with your mother's private investigator. The world stops. What private investigator? The one she hired 6 months ago to investigate Helen Evans. I have files, recordings, photographs, financial records, things your mother couldn't access officially. My heart pounds. Why are you calling now? Because Helen's people just offered me money to destroy everything. A pause. Your mother was kind to me once. I'd rather give you the truth. I checked the time. 3 minutes until the meeting. Where? I'm parked behind the building. Blue sedan. I text Paul. Stall the meeting. Trust me. The service elevator takes me to the parking garage. A middle-aged Asian woman stands beside a blue car, holding a thick envelope. Your mother knew, she says, handing it over, about Helen's past companies, the bankruptcies, the fraud charges that disappeared. She was building a case, but she ran out of time. Inside the envelope, I find what I need. Proof of Helen's pattern, her history of corporate takeovers and destroyed lives, and something else. Surveillance photos of Helen meeting with my mother's doctors weeks before her condition suddenly worsened. There's more, Sarah says softly. About your mother's last days. Cold certainty settles in my chest. Send everything to this address. I hand her my lawyer's card. And Sarah, thank you. The elevator feels different going up. I'm my mother's daughter, after all. And it's time to show Helen Evans exactly what that means. I walk into the board meeting, 10 minutes late. Helen's smirk fading as she sees my face. I don't look at the board members, or Paul, or even Lucas. I look straight at her as I set the envelope on the table. So, I say quietly, shall we discuss my mother's last days, Helen? The surveillance photos scatter across the boardroom table like playing cards. Helen's face remains composed, but her knuckles whiten around her water glass. These meetings with Dr. Richards, I say, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. They happened 2 weeks before my mother's condition suddenly deteriorated. Lucas starts to stand. Bailey, you can't possibly. Sit down. The command comes from James Morton, his earlier smugness replaced by something harder. Mrs. Evans, explain these photographs. Helen's laugh sounds brittle. Really, Bailey? Accusing me of what? Murder. This is exactly the kind of unstable behavior we've been concerned about. I slide another document forward. Dr. Richards made a very large deposit the day after my mother's death. The money came from one of your shell companies. The room goes deadly quiet. Paul moves closer to the door, blocking it. Helen's lawyer whispers urgently in her ear, but she waves him off. You want to play this game? Her voice drops to a whisper. Fine. Your mother was weak, sentimental. She was going to destroy everything we'd built, expose our arrangements with overseas investors. I simply accelerated the inevitable. Helen! Lucas looks horrified, but I see the calculation behind his shock. Always performing, even now. Oh, stop pretending, darling. Helen's mask finally slips completely. You knew exactly what was happening. Why do you think I had you marry her so quickly? We needed control before she died, and you played your part perfectly. The board members shift uncomfortably. James Morton reaches for his phone, but Helen's next words freeze everyone in place. Bailey, dear, you have exactly 30 seconds to withdraw these accusations and resign, or the world learns how your father really died 10 years ago. The air leaves my lungs. What? Your mother's hands weren't entirely clean. That car accident. Insurance fraud gone wrong. I have proof, documents, witness statements, everything. Your precious legacy dies today, one way or another. My carefully constructed plan crumbles. I see the board members' expressions changing, doubt creeping in. Even Paul looks uncertain. Time's up, Helen says softly. What's it going to be? Lucas moves to my side, touching my arm. Bailey, please, think about what you're doing. Some things should stay buried. I look at his hand on my arm. The wedding ring I once thought meant something. Behind him, Helen's triumphant smile grows. They've orchestrated everything. From the beginning. My marriage, my mother's death, maybe even my father's. Every choice I thought was mine was just another move in their game. You're right, I whisper. Some things should stay buried. I reach for the resignation letter James prepared earlier. Helen relaxes slightly, victory in her eyes. Instead of signing, I pull out my phone and press play. Helen's voice fills the room. You knew exactly what was happening. Why do you think I had you marry her so quickly? We needed control before she died. No. Helen lunges for the phone, but Paul catches her arm. That's not all, I say, my voice shaking. The police are executing search warrants right now. Your home, your office, Dr. Richard's clinic, and every board member here will receive copies of my mother's complete investigation files within the hour. You'll destroy everything, Lucas warns. Every reputation, every relationship. You already did that. I turn to the board. My resignation letter, gentlemen. I think you'll find it interesting reading, especially the part about Helen's involvement in 3 other corporate takeovers that ended in mysterious deaths. Helen breaks free from Paul, her composure shattered. I'll destroy you. No. I stand straighter, my mother's strength flowing through me. You'll destroy yourself. The only question is how many people you take down with you. The boardroom doors burst open. Detective Martinez leads a team of officers inside, warrant cards displayed. Helen Evans, Lucas Evans, you're under arrest for conspiracy and corporate fraud. Martinez pauses. Among other charges. As they're led away, Helen's threats echo through the hallway, but I don't move, don't speak. I stand at the head of my mother's table, in my mother's company, and let the weight of victory settle over me like a shroud. Some things should stay buried, but some truths demand to be heard, no matter the cost. The courthouse steps swarm with reporters as Helen and Lucas arrive for their arraignment. I watch from across the street, Chloe's hand steady on my arm. Even now they play their parts perfectly. Helen dignified in designer black, Lucas appropriately somber. Ready? Paul asks quietly. Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Unknown number. Bailey. Lucas's voice, desperate and familiar. Meet me in the park. 10 minutes. There's something you need to know about your mother. Chloe grabs my wrist. Don't. But I'm already moving. Some truths demand witnesses. The park bench where Lucas proposed sits empty, except for him. No Helen. No lawyers. He looks smaller somehow, less polished. Make it quick, I say, staying standing. Your mother knew what Helen was planning. He runs his hands through his hair. That gesture I once loved. She approached me 6 months ago, offered me immunity if I'd testify against Helen. The world tilts slightly. What? I refused, told Helen everything. That's when he stops, swallowing hard. That's when Helen decided your mother had to go. And you let it happen. I loved you. He reaches for my hand, but I step back. Maybe not at first, but I did. I couldn't betray my mother. No. You just betrayed your wife instead. Movement catches my eye. Helen emerging from behind a tree, her lawyer close behind. Of course, one final manipulation. Bailey, Helen calls out. You're making a terrible mistake. Think about what this trial will do to your father's memory, to your mother's reputation. Interesting threat, considering what just arrived at the district attorney's office. I check my watch. About 20 minutes ago, actually. Helen's smile falters. What are you talking about? Remember Sarah Chen, the investigator? She found something fascinating in my mother's safety deposit box. Video recordings, years of them. Every meeting, every threat, every scheme. You're bluffing. Mom knew what you were, Helen. Right from the start. She played you, documented everything, built an airtight case. The only thing she didn't count on was you getting to her before she could finish it. Lucas steps forward. Bailey, please. The videos show everything, including you, Lucas, admitting to Helen that Mom offered you immunity, proving premeditation. Helen's lawyer whispers urgently in her ear, but she waves him off. You wouldn't dare. It would destroy everything? I laugh, and it sounds like my mother's. That's the point. But here's the deal. Confess. Full confession, all of it. Do that, and the videos stay private. Or what? Or in 1 hour, every major news outlet receives copies. Your choice. Helen's face contorts. You stupid girl, you think you've won. I still have proof about your father's accident. I'll burn your whole family's legacy to the ground. No, Paul's voice rings out as he approaches with Detective Martinez. You won't. Martinez holds up his phone, recording. Chloe steps out from behind a tree with her own phone raised. Conspiracy, blackmail, admission of premeditated murder. Martinez lists off. Want to add anything else, Mrs. Evans? Helen lunges for me, all pretense of dignity gone. You orchestrated this entire meeting. I learned from the best. I step back as Martinez restrains her. You taught me how to play the long game, Helen. Too bad you never learned when to stop playing. Lucas doesn't resist when they cuff him. Bailey, he calls out. For what it's worth, I really did love you. I watch them lead Helen and Lucas away, their protests fading into the morning air. Paul squeezes my shoulder. Your mother would be proud, he says softly. But I'm not sure pride is what I feel. Standing in the park where my marriage began, watching it end in handcuffs and sirens, I realize revenge tastes different than I expected. Not sweet, not bitter, just final. Let's go, I tell Paul and Chloe. We have a company to run. Behind us, Helen's threats echo off marble courthouse walls, but they can't touch me anymore. Some debts can only be paid in truth, and today, the bill came due. The verdict takes less than 2 hours. I watch Helen's face as guilty echoes through the courtroom. Once, twice, 7 times total. She doesn't look at Lucas when they lead him away, his separate plea deal, securing a lighter sentence, but destroying their final connection. Outside, reporters shout questions about justice and closure. I push past them, letting Paul handle the statements. My mother's letter burns in my pocket, discovered this morning in a folder marked for after. The office is quiet when I arrive. Sarah Chen waits by my mother's desk, a familiar safety deposit box in her hands. There's something she wanted you to see, Sarah says, setting down the box. When it was over, inside, I find a single USB drive and a handwritten note. For my daughter, who always knew the difference between revenge and justice. The video plays, and my mother's face fills the screen. She looks tired but determined, recording this in her final days. Bailey, if you're watching this, then Helen and Lucas have shown their true colors. And knowing you, you've already fought back. She smiles. That fierce expression I remember from boardroom battles. But revenge isn't why I built this case. It was never about punishing them. It was about protecting you, protecting everything we built together. My throat tightens as she continues. There's one last thing you need to know. The company's overseas accounts. I've hidden something there, not money, proof, evidence of every person Helen has destroyed over the years. Their stories, their losses, all of it. Use it wisely. Some of them might still need justice. The screen flickers. But Bailey, don't let this consume you. Helen's greatest victory would be turning you into someone like her, someone who sees people as pieces to be played. You're my daughter. You're better than that. The video ends. Sarah quietly leaves as I sit at my mother's desk, running my fingers over the worn leather armrests. My phone buzzes, a text from Lucas's prison email account. I meant what I said about loving you. I delete it without responding. Some wounds don't need closure. They just need to heal. Chloe appears in the doorway. The board's waiting. They want to discuss the company's direction. Tell them 5 minutes. Alone again, I open my mother's last drawer, the one I've avoided since her death. Inside, photos spill out. My father teaching me to ride a bike. My mother at my college graduation. Family moments that Helen tried to taint but couldn't touch. The last photo shows my mother and me in her office, both laughing at some forgotten joke. On the back, she'd written, "Remember who you are." I pin it to the wall, next to the company's mission statement. Then I pull out my phone and dial a number I've been holding on to. "Mrs. Rodriguez, this is Bailey Turner. I found evidence about how Helen Evans destroyed your family's business. I'd like to help make it right, because that's the thing about legacies. They're not just what we inherit, but what we choose to do with them." I grab my briefcase and head to the boardroom, leaving my mother's office door open. Through the windows, sunlight streams across the desk where Helen once plotted, where Lucas once lied, where my mother built something worth protecting. Paul meets me halfway. "Ready?" "Almost." I pause, looking back at my mother's photo. You know, she never wanted revenge. She wanted justice, not just for us, but for everyone Helen hurt. And now we finish what she started. I straighten my jacket, feeling the weight of her letter against my heart. But this time, we do it my way. The boardroom doors open, and I step through, leaving revenge behind and carrying justice forward. Because some legacies aren't about getting even. They're about making things right. And that's a story worth telling.
The phone slipped from my fingers, hitting the kitchen counter with a dull thud. 3 years of marriage, and I'd never once checked Ben's messages. Until today. Until that notification lit up his screen while he was in the shower. "Can't wait for tomorrow? Same place, same time? R. I'm Sarah. Up until 5 minutes ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. Marketing executive, new mother, devoted wife. Funny how a single text can make you question everything. The shower was still running upstairs. I could hear Ben humming, probably that irritating jazz tune he'd been obsessed with lately. My hands trembled as I picked up his phone again, my thumb hovering over the message preview. "Sarah?" Ben's voice echoed from upstairs. "Have you seen my blue tie?" "Check the laundry basket," I called back, my voice steadier than I felt. The message taunted me, its blue bubble a portal to a truth I wasn't sure I wanted to know. I pressed my finger against the home button. Locked. Of course it was locked. But the preview was still there, along with earlier message snippets from the same R. "Late meeting tonight. Miss you already?" That was incredible. My stomach churned. The baby monitor crackled with Jamie's soft breathing, reminding me of everything at stake. 3 months old, and already his world might be crumbling. Footsteps on the stairs. I placed the phone exactly where I'd found it, grabbed a coffee mug, and tried to look busy. Ben appeared in the doorway, hair still damp, that stupid blue tie hanging loose around his neck. "Found it in the dryer," he said, flashing that smile that used to make my heart skip. Now it just made me want to throw up. "You're home late tonight?" I asked, careful to keep my tone casual. He paused, just for a fraction of a second. If I hadn't been watching for it, I might have missed it. "Yeah, big presentation tomorrow. Probably won't wrap up until 8 or 9. Liar. "I could bring you dinner at the office," I suggested, watching his face. "Jamie's been sleeping better. We could make it a surprise." "No." He said it too quickly, then softened his voice. "I mean, don't trouble yourself. It'll be boring, just me and the blueprints." And R. Whoever R was. "Right," I said, taking a sip of coffee I didn't want. "Wouldn't want to disturb your concentration." Ben grabbed his phone, checking it briefly before sliding it into his pocket. If he noticed anything amiss, he didn't show it. He kissed my cheek, a quick, distracted peck, and headed for the door. "Love you," he called over his shoulder. "Love you too," I replied automatically, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. The front door clicked shut. I waited until I heard his car start, then pulled out my own phone. My hands were steady now as I scrolled through my contacts, stopping at Emily's name. My best friend since college, now a corporate lawyer, with a talent for digging up dirt. The baby monitor crackled again. Upstairs, Jamie would be waking soon, demanding his morning feed. My beautiful boy, who had his father's eyes and my stubborn chin, who deserved better than a father who could look his wife in the face and lie without flinching. I hit dial. "Em, I need your help with something." I paused, gathering my thoughts. "What do you know about hiring a private investigator?" The words hung in the air, making everything real. There would be no going back from this moment. But then, Ben had already made that choice for both of us, hadn't he? IR might have tomorrow, but I had today, and I was going to use it to tear Ben's carefully constructed lies apart, piece by piece, until nothing remained but the truth. Emily's office always smelled like leather and ambition. I sat across from her desk, watching her scroll through the private investigator's website on her laptop while Jamie dozed in his carrier beside me. Marcus Chen, former FBI, 20 years experience, specializes in infidelity cases. She looked up at me. "Are you absolutely sure about this, Sarah?" I twisted my wedding ring, the diamond catching the afternoon light. "You should have seen Ben's face this morning when I suggested bringing dinner to his office, like I'd threatened to set his blueprints on fire." "That doesn't necessarily mean—" 3 years, Em. 3 years, and he's never once changed his phone password. Now suddenly it's locked." My voice cracked. "And those messages—" Emily closed her laptop with a sharp click. "Have you talked to Nancy and Tom about any of this?" God, no. The thought of telling Ben's parents made my stomach turn. Nancy's been so wonderful since Jamie was born. She brings casseroles twice a week, helps with the laundry. And Tom? I swallowed hard. He'd probably arrest Ben on principle. "Or shoot him," Emily muttered. She'd never quite warmed to my father-in-law's rigid moral code. "Speaking of the devil," my phone buzzed. Nancy's name lit up the screen. "Sarah, dear, Tom and I were thinking of stopping by for dinner tonight. I've made that lasagna you love." My throat tightened. "Tonight? Ben's working late." "Again?" There was something in Nancy's tone. Concern? Suspicion? "That's the 3rd time this week." "Big project," I said automatically, the lie bitter on my tongue. "But please come. Jamie would love to see his grandparents." After hanging up, I caught Emily's knowing look. "What?" "Nancy's not stupid, Sarah." She raised Ben. "If she's noticing something's off, then I need to be more careful." I stood up, gathering Jamie's diaper bag. "Can you set up a meeting with this Marcus person?" Emily nodded slowly. "Just promise me you'll think about what you want to do with whatever he finds. Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't about revenge." But even as I said it, I could feel something dark and hungry unfurling in my chest. It's about truth, about justice. "Same thing sometimes," Emily said softly. That evening, Nancy's lasagna sat heavy in my stomach as I watched her and Tom with Jamie. They were such naturals, Nancy singing silly songs, while Tom made faces that had Jamie giggling. A perfect family picture, except for the son who couldn't be bothered to come home to it. My phone buzzed. Ben. "Meeting's running even later than expected." "Don't wait up." Nancy caught my expression. "Everything all right, dear?" "Fine," I said too quickly. "Just Ben working late again." Tom's jaw tightened. "That firm works him too hard. When I was on the force, at least I made it home for dinner most nights." "Most nights," Nancy echoed, with a pointed look that suggested an old argument. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Emily, with Marcus Chen's contact information and 3 words that made my heart race. "He's free tomorrow." "Sarah?" Nancy's hand touched my arm, making me jump. "You seem distant lately. Is everything okay? With you and Ben?" I looked into her concerned eyes, so like her son's, and felt the weight of secrets pressing down on me. How many family dinners like this had I sat through, playing the perfect daughter-in-law? How many more could I endure? Everything's fine, I lied, forcing a smile. Just tired. New mom stuff, you know? Nancy nodded, but her eyes stayed worried. As she and Tom gathered their things to leave, she hugged me tighter than usual. You know you can tell us anything, right? We're family. Family. The word echoed in my head as I watched them drive away. Behind me, Jamie started to fuss in his crib. Somewhere across town, Ben was with her. With R. Probably telling her the same lies he told me. I pulled out my phone and typed a response to Emily. Set up the meeting. Tomorrow. Marcus Chen's manila envelope sat unopened on my kitchen counter for 3 hours. Jamie was finally napping. The house quiet except for the hum of the dishwasher, and still I couldn't bring myself to look inside. The investigator's words echoed in my head. You might want to be sitting down for this one, Mrs. Mitchell. My phone buzzed. Ben. Running late again, don't wait up. That decided it. I ripped open the envelope, and photographs spilled across the granite countertop like accusations. Ben and a woman, tall, slim, red hair, entering a boutique hotel. Ben kissing her in a restaurant's dim corner. Ben helping her into his car. My car, the one I'd helped him pick out for his promotion last year. The timestamp on the last photo was yesterday. While I was feeding Jamie strained peas, while I was folding tiny onesies, while I was lying awake waiting for him to come home. My hands didn't shake as I picked up Chen's detailed report. Rachel Carter, 32, project manager at Ben's firm. Started there 6 months ago. The timeline made my stomach turn. Right when I was on bed rest, fighting to keep Jamie safe. The doorbell rang, startling me. Through the window, I saw Nancy's car in the driveway. Shit, I'd forgotten she was coming to help with Jamie. I swept the photos into the envelope, but missed one. It slid under the refrigerator as I rushed to answer the door. Sarah, dear! Nancy bustled in with a casserole dish. I brought that chicken thing you like. Are you all right? You look pale. Fine, I said automatically. Just tired. Jamie's been fussy. She set down the dish, mother's intuition clearly kicking in. Sarah! The baby monitor crackled with Jamie's first warning whimpers. Thank God for small mercies. I should get him, I said, turning toward the stairs. I'll warm up lunch while you do, Nancy offered, heading for the kitchen. My heart stopped. The envelope was still on the counter. Actually, I started, but Nancy was already there. I watched her freeze, staring at the manila envelope with Marcus Chen's name and confidential investigation stamped across it. Sarah? Her voice was different now. Careful. What's this? Jamie's cries grew louder upstairs. I stood frozen between two disasters, unsure which would hurt more. Nancy moved toward the refrigerator, probably to get butter for the casserole. Her foot caught something. The missing photograph, sliding out into plain view. The silence that followed was deafening. Oh, Ben, she whispered, picking up the photo. What have you done? Jamie's wails reached full volume. I started toward the stairs, but Nancy's hand caught my arm. Go get him, she said quietly. Then we're going to talk. When I came back down, Jamie hiccuping against my shoulder, Nancy had the envelope's contents spread across the counter. Her hands trembled as she shuffled through the evidence of her son's betrayal. Rachel Carter, she said, reading from Chen's report. I met her at the firm's Christmas party. She seemed... Nancy's voice broke. I thought she seemed nice. Nancy, Does Tom know? I shook my head. Good. She straightened her spine, teacher mode activating. He'd kill him. Actually kill him. She looked at Jamie, then back at me. What are you going to do? I don't know. But even as I said it, I realized it wasn't true. I knew exactly what I was going to do. I just didn't want to admit it to Ben's mother. Nancy must have seen something in my face, because she nodded slowly. Whatever it is, I'll support you. Tom will too. She gathered the photos, sliding them back into the envelope. But Sarah, make it count. My phone buzzed again. Ben. Dinner with clients. Don't expect me before midnight. Nancy read the message over my shoulder and made a sound I'd never heard from her before. Part laugh, part sob. Make it count, she repeated, harder this time. Make him regret every single lie. I looked at my mother-in-law, this woman who'd welcomed me into her family, who was now giving me permission to destroy her son's carefully constructed world. I will, I promised. And for the first time since finding that text, I smiled. Ben came home drunk that night, stumbling through our bedroom door at 2 a.m. I lay still, watching through half-closed eyes as he fumbled with his tie, reeking of whiskey and someone else's perfume. Sarah? He squinted at my seemingly sleeping form. You awake? I kept my breathing steady, even as my heart hammered against my ribs. On the nightstand, my phone silently recorded every sound, every movement. Emily's idea. Document everything, she'd said, just in case. He collapsed onto the bed, still fully dressed. Within minutes, his phone buzzed. Even in his drunken state, he checked it immediately. The blue light illuminated his smile. That secret smile I used to think belonged to me. I waited until his breathing deepened into snores before sliding out of bed. His phone lay loose in his palm, screen dark but unlocked. Thank you, Whiskey. My hands didn't shake as I scrolled through his messages. Rachel's thread was deleted, of course, but he'd forgotten about his email. There it was, buried in his work account. Dinner reservations, hotel confirmations, plane tickets to Chicago next month. A romantic getaway disguised as a business trip. I forwarded everything to myself, then hesitated over a folder marked Properties. Inside were documents for a lease agreement, a downtown apartment signed 3 weeks ago. He was planning to leave. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. While I'd been plotting my revenge, he'd been plotting his escape. The apartment wasn't just for secret meetings. It was an exit strategy. Jamie's cry pierced the silence. Ben didn't stir, but I moved quickly, replacing the phone before heading to the nursery. Shh, baby, I whispered, lifting him from his crib. Mama's got you. In the pale nightlight, Jamie's features blurred between mine and Ben's. Would he grow up to have his father's smile? His talent for architecture? His capacity for betrayal? My phone buzzed. Nancy. I couldn't sleep, she texted. Tom's asking questions. He knows something's wrong. I typed back one-handed, Jamie snuffling against my shoulder. Ben signed a lease. He's planning to leave. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, come over for breakfast tomorrow. Tom needs to know. Fear and anticipation twisted in my gut. Tom Mitchell didn't handle betrayal well. It's why he'd been such a good cop. Once he knew the truth about his son. Another text from Nancy. Bring everything you have. All of it. I looked down at Jamie, now sleeping peacefully, unaware that his world was about to implode. In the other room, Ben snored on, equally oblivious to the approaching storm. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Emily. Got the Chicago tickets. Want to know something interesting? Rachel booked a separate return flight, 3 days after Ben. The pieces clicked together. The apartment. The separate flights. The way Rachel had been seen leaving expensive boutiques, shopping for furniture instead of clothes. She wasn't just his mistress. She was going to be his new life. I settled Jamie back in his crib, my mind racing. Ben thought he had it all planned out. The perfect escape, the clean break. He probably thought he was being kind, sparing me the messy confrontation. Well, too bad. I returned to our bedroom, watching him sleep. This stranger who wore my husband's face. In the morning, he wouldn't remember unlocking his phone. Wouldn't remember giving me the final piece of evidence I needed. I'm going to destroy you, I whispered to his unconscious form. Not just for me, for Jamie, for your parents, for everyone you thought you could abandon without consequences. Ben stirred slightly, mumbling Rachel's name in his sleep. I smiled in the darkness, thinking of tomorrow's breakfast with his parents, of Tom's righteous anger and Nancy's quiet fury, of the carefully gathered evidence that would tear down Ben's perfect plan piece by piece. He thought he was writing the ending to our story. He had no idea I was about to rewrite it completely. Tom Mitchell's hands gripped his coffee mug so tightly I thought it might shatter. The evidence lay spread across his kitchen table. photos, emails, lease documents, a paper trail of his son's betrayal. "That apartment," Nancy said, her voice tight. "It's in the same building where Tom's old partner lives." "Dennis wouldn't have missed Ben coming and going," Tom growled. "He sees everything in that place." I bounced Jamie gently, watching Tom's face darken as he studied the Chicago flight confirmations. 3 days, he muttered. "She stays 3 extra days after Ben leaves." "Business meetings," I quoted from the email chain. That's what Ben told his firm. The doorbell rang, making us all jump. Nancy peered through the curtains and went pale. "It's Ben!" My heart stopped. He never came here on Sunday mornings, always claimed he needed to catch up on work. "Sarah?" Ben's voice carried through the door. "Your car's here. Is everything okay?" Tom started to rise, but Nancy gripped his arm. "Not yet," she whispered. I handed Jamie to Nancy and moved to the door, opening it just enough to block his view of the kitchen. "What are you doing here?" I asked, proud of how steady my voice sounded. "You weren't answering your phone. I was worried." He tried to peer past me. "Is Jamie okay?" "He's fine. Your mother's watching him while I faltered, realizing I hadn't prepared a lie. "While you what?" His tone sharpened slightly. "And why aren't you answering your phone?" "It's dead," I said quickly. "I forgot my charger." Behind me, Jamie let out a happy squeal at the sound of his father's voice. Ben's face softened. "Can I come in? Say hi to Mom?" Before I could answer, Tom appeared behind me. "Actually, son, we need to talk." Ben's expression flickered. Surprise, then something else. Fear? "Dad, I've got a meeting." "No, you don't." Tom's voice was deadly quiet. "Rachel's out of town this weekend. Dennis saw her leave yesterday." The color drained from Ben's face. "I don't." Tom stepped forward, and Ben actually backed up. "Don't you dare lie to me. Not in my house, not to my face." Nancy appeared, still holding Jamie. "Benjamin Mitchell, get in here right now." I'd never heard that tone from her before. Neither had Ben, apparently, because he obeyed automatically. The kitchen fell silent as Ben took in the evidence spread across the table. His hands trembled slightly as he picked up a photo of himself and Rachel. "How long have you known?" he asked me. "Long enough." I watched him examine the lease agreement. "Planning to tell me about the apartment? Or were you just going to disappear one day?" "It's not." He swallowed hard. "It's complicated." "Explain it then," Tom demanded. "Explain how you could do this to your wife, your son." "You don't understand," Ben snapped. "None of you understand what it's like, feeling trapped, suffocating under everyone's expectations." Jamie started crying, the tension in the room finally getting to him. Ben reached for him instinctively, but Nancy turned away, shielding her grandson. Something broke in Ben's face then, not guilt or shame, but anger. "So that's it? You're all against me now, taking her side?" "There aren't sides," Nancy said quietly. "There's right and wrong, and this?" She gestured at the evidence. "This is wrong, Benjamin." "The Chicago trip's canceled," I told him. "I called your firm this morning. Told them you had a family emergency." "You what?" He stepped toward me, face flushing. "You had no right." Tom moved between us so fast I barely saw him. "Think very carefully about your next move, son." Ben looked from face to face, his father's fury, his mother's disappointment, my cold determination. Finally, his shoulders slumped. "I need to go," he muttered, turning toward the door. "Ben." My voice stopped him. "When you get home tonight, we're going to talk. About everything, including custody arrangements." He flinched but didn't turn around. The front door slammed behind him. Nancy hugged Jamie closer, tears streaming down her face. Tom's hand found mine, squeezing gently. "You did good," he said softly. "Now comes the hard part." I nodded, watching through the window as Ben's car disappeared down the street. The hard part wasn't confronting him. It was deciding what kind of justice I wanted, what kind of revenge would hurt him most. And looking at Jamie's innocent face, I knew exactly what to do. Ben didn't come home that night. or the next. By Wednesday, his side of the closet was empty, and his toothbrush had disappeared from our bathroom. No note, no explanation, just absence where my husband used to be. I sat at our kitchen table, Jamie asleep upstairs, staring at the divorce papers Emily had drafted. The house felt wrong, like a stage set where all the furniture had been shifted 2 inches to the left. My phone buzzed. A text from Nancy. "He's at the apartment. Dennis saw him moving boxes in with her." Before I could respond, another message appeared. Unknown number. "You really thought he'd choose you and the baby over me? How adorably naive." Rachel. My hands shook as I saved the number. This wasn't part of the plan. She wasn't supposed to know I knew, not yet. The doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Ben, looking exhausted and unshaven. When I opened the door, the smell of Rachel's perfume clung to his clothes. "I need my passport," he said, not meeting my eyes. "It's in the safe." "Planning another trip?" My voice sounded strange, even to me. "Chicago's lovely this time of year." He flinched. "Sarah, your father called the firm." I cut him off. "Did you know that? 30 years on the force gives him some interesting connections. They're investigating the project funds you've been using for your little love nest." That got his attention. "He had no right." "Like you had no right to empty our savings account?" His face went blank. He thought I hadn't noticed yet. Thought I wouldn't check until it was too late. "That money was mostly mine," he said carefully. "From the Anderson project. From the project you landed while I was on bed rest? While I was fighting to keep our son alive?" The rage I'd been containing for weeks burst free. "The project Rachel helped you get?" "It wasn't like that." He stepped toward me, hands raised placatingly. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." I backed away from his reach. "I understand that while I was choosing between paying for Jamie's medical bills and buying groceries, you were furnishing an apartment with my money." "Our money," he corrected, anger finally seeping through his careful mask. "And maybe if you hadn't been so focused on the baby." "Don't!" My voice could have frozen hell. "Don't you dare make this about Jamie." "Everything's about Jamie," he exploded. "Every conversation, every decision, every dollar. It's all about the baby. When was the last time you even looked at me? When was the last time you were home to be looked at?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Upstairs, Jamie started crying. "I'll get the passport," I said quietly. "Wait here." I climbed the stairs slowly, each step feeling like lead. In the nursery, Jamie's cries turned to hiccuping sobs as I lifted him from his crib. "Shh, baby," I whispered, breathing in his sweet, powder-fresh scent. "It's okay. We're okay." My phone buzzed again. "Rachel. He's moving in permanently this weekend. Don't worry, I'll take good care of him." Something inside me snapped. I carried Jamie downstairs, where Ben was pacing impatiently. "Here," I said, holding out our son. "Hold him." Ben stepped back. "Sarah, I don't have time." "Hold your son." Reluctantly, he took Jamie, who immediately started wailing louder. "This is what you're walking away from," I said, watching him struggle to comfort the baby he barely knew anymore. "Not me, not our marriage, him." "Ha, I'm not walking away," Ben protested weakly. "I'll pay support, I'll visit, like your father visited his other family." He went white. "How did you—" "Tom told me everything. About the sister you never knew, about how he chose to stay, to make it right." I took Jamie back, his cries instantly quieting. "But you're not him, are you? You're not that strong." "Sarah, please." "The passport's in my lawyer's office," I said, turning away. "Along with the evidence of your creative accounting. Your choice, Ben. Make it count." The door closed behind him, with a final sounding click. I held Jamie closer, feeling his tiny heart beat against mine, and waited for Ben's next move. But I already knew what it would be. Men like him always choose the easier path. I just hadn't expected it to hurt this much. Emily's text hit like a thunderbolt. "Rachel's at the firm. She's telling everyone she's pregnant." I was already halfway to my car when Nancy called. "Sarah, don't—" "Watch Jamie," I cut her off. I'll be back soon. The elevator ride to Ben's office felt endless. Each ping of passing floors echoed the pounding in my chest. When the doors opened, I heard Rachel's voice carrying across the open workspace. "Of course we didn't plan it," she was saying to a cluster of wide-eyed colleagues. "But Ben and I are so excited." She saw me before I saw her. The triumphant smile froze on her face. "Sarah," Ben stepped between us, his voice low and urgent. "This isn't the place." 3 months, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "That's how long you've been sleeping together, right? While I was on bed rest?" Rachel's hand drifted to her stomach, a practiced, theatrical gesture. "Ben, maybe we should—" "Interesting timing," I continued, pulling out my phone. "Especially since you filled that birth control prescription 2 weeks ago." The office went dead silent. Rachel's face drained of color. "What prescription?" Ben turned to her, confusion breaking through his carefully maintained facade. "The one she picked up at Wilson's pharmacy," I said, showing him the receipt on my phone. "Tom's old partner works security there now. Funny how small this city is, isn't it?" "Rachel!" Ben's voice cracked slightly. "What is she talking about?" Rachel's mask slipped, just for a moment. Fear flickered in her eyes before she rallied. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what he thinks," I cut in. "You're not pregnant. You never were. You just needed something to seal the deal, right? To make sure he wouldn't change his mind about leaving?" "Ben, she's lying." Rachel reached for him, but he stepped back. "Baby, please." "Don't call him that." My voice could have cut glass. "You don't get to call him that. Like you have any right to him?" Rachel snapped, composure finally shattering. "You trapped him with that baby, made him feel guilty about everything he wanted." "Wanted?" I laughed, the sound harsh and foreign. "You mean like the apartment he can't afford anymore? The firm's investigating the project funds, Rachel. How long before they find your fingerprints on those creative expense reports?" Her face went from white to gray. Behind us, someone gasped. Ben looked like he might be sick. "You wouldn't," Rachel whispered. "I already did." I turned to Ben. "Your father's friend at the SEC is very interested in those numbers. Apparently, misappropriating client funds is frowned upon." "You're bluffing," Rachel said, but her voice shook. I pulled out another paper, a copy of the SEC preliminary investigation notice. "Am I?" Ben grabbed it, scanning quickly. "Rachel, what did you do?" "What I had to." She was crying now, mascara running. "You said you needed help getting away from her, that you felt trapped." "I never said to steal." "You didn't have to. I did it for us, for our future." "There is no us!" Ben's shout echoed across the suddenly empty office. "There's no baby, no future, just lies. My God, what have I done?" I watched him crumble. This man I'd loved. This stranger I'd married. Part of me wanted to comfort him, to say it would be okay. But I thought of Jamie, alone with his grandmother, while his father threw away everything for a woman who'd played him just as thoroughly as he'd played me. "The divorce papers are still on the kitchen table," I said quietly. "Sign them tonight, and I won't press charges for the money you took from our account." "Sarah, please!" He reached for me, but I stepped back. "Tonight, Ben, or tomorrow I call the SEC myself." I turned and walked away, Rachel's sobs and Ben's broken silence, following me to the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught one last glimpse of them, 2 liars with nowhere left to hide. My phone buzzed. "Nancy. Jamie's asking for Mama." I smiled, feeling lighter than I had in months. It was time to go home to my son. The signed divorce papers sat on Emily's desk like a fallen leaf, crisp, final, dead. She shuffled through them one last time, checking Ben's signatures. "The SEC investigation is moving forward," she said, closing the folder. "Rachel's already accepted a plea deal. She's testifying against the firm's leadership." "And Ben?" "Suspended pending investigation. He'll probably avoid charges, but his career—" She shrugged. "Let's just say he won't be designing skyscrapers anytime soon." I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out all my anger and left nothing in its place. My phone buzzed. "Nancy, sending another photo of Jamie with his new tooth. She and Tom had become fixtures in our lives, as if trying to make up for their son's absence with doubled love. "There's something else," Emily said, pulling out another document. "Ben's requesting supervised visitation." The hollow feeling vanished, replaced by ice. "No." "Sarah, he abandoned us, stole from us." "And he'll pay for that." Emily's voice was gentle. "But he's still Jamie's father." The sunlight through her office window caught the edge of my wedding ring. Still there, though I couldn't say why. Force of habit, maybe. Or a reminder of how easily truth could be twisted into lies. I need to show you something first," I said, pulling up the video on my phone. The security footage from Dennis's building played silently. Ben and Rachel arguing in the lobby, her throwing something at him. Keys, maybe, before storming out. The timestamp was 3 days after our confrontation. "Where did you get this?" "Tom sent it. Said I should know what kind of man wants to be part of my son's life." Emily watched the rest. Ben slumping against the wall, head in his hands, then suddenly straightening as another woman entered. The same red hair as Rachel, but 20 years older. Her mother, I'd learned later. The conversation was silent but clear. Accusations, denials, finally a confession. Rachel had done this before, it turned out. 3 other men, 3 other false pregnancies. Her mother had come to warn Ben, too late to save his marriage, but just in time to save what remained of his career. "Does he know you have this?" Emily asked. I shook my head. "I could use it against him in the custody hearing, prove he has bad judgment, prove he's unfit. But then I'd be just like them, using truth as a weapon, twisting it to hurt people." Emily smiled slightly. "So what do you want to do?" The answer came easier than I expected. "I want to move forward, set conditions for the visitation, therapy, parenting classes, supervised visits, until he proves himself. But I want Jamie to have the chance to know his father, the real one, not the liar or the victim." "And Rachel?" "She'll face her own consequences. That's not my story anymore." Emily nodded, already drafting new papers. Outside her office, the city hummed with life. People hurrying to meetings, falling in love, telling lies, seeking redemption. Somewhere out there, Ben was probably sitting in his empty apartment, wondering how it all went so wrong. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Tom. "Dinner tonight? Nancy's making that lasagna you love." I smiled, thinking of family dinners with new boundaries, new understanding. Thinking of Jamie growing up, surrounded by imperfect people, trying their best to be better. "Sarah?" Emily held out a pen. "Ready to finish this?" I slipped off my wedding ring, placing it carefully in my purse. Not as a keepsake, but as a reminder of how love could blind us, how truth could save us, and how sometimes the best revenge was simply living well. "Yes," I said, taking the pen. "I'm ready." The papers felt lighter than I expected. Each signature was a step forward, away from betrayal and towards something new. Not an ending exactly. More like a door opening to possibilities I hadn't known existed when I first found that text on Ben's phone. Jamie was waiting, and for the first time in months, so was I.
The letter sat on my kitchen counter like a coiled snake. Plain white envelope, no return address, just my husband's name written in precise, measured strokes. I'd found it mixed in with our regular mail, and something about those careful letters made my stomach clench. I'm Vivian, and until this moment, I thought I knew exactly who I was. Wife, daughter-in-law, former marketing executive turned reluctant housewife. Living with my in-laws wasn't my idea of domestic bliss, but I'd made my peace with it. Or so I thought. My fingers traced the edge of the envelope. Daniel wouldn't be home for hours, and Lorraine, my mother-in-law, was upstairs doing whatever she did to maintain her iron grip on this household. The temptation to open it grew with each passing second. "Something interesting in the mail, dear?" Lorraine's voice cut through my thoughts. She stood in the doorway, perfectly coiffed as always, watching me with those hawk-like eyes. "Just sorting through bills," I said, sliding the envelope beneath a stack of junk mail. "Nothing exciting." She glided across the kitchen, heels clicking against the tile. You know, a good wife doesn't keep secrets from her husband. No secrets here, Lorraine. Just trying to organize things before Daniel gets home. She reached for the coffee pot, her wedding ring catching the light. Such a dedicated wife you've become. Who would have thought? The way she said it made my skin crawl. I busied myself with wiping down the already spotless counter, fighting the urge to snap back. 3 years of living under her roof had taught me the futility of direct confrontation. Later that night, after dinner and dishes and the usual dance of forced pleasantries, I finally got my hands on the letter again. Daniel was in the shower, and I'd retreated to our bedroom, heart pounding as I carefully opened the envelope. The words hit me like a physical blow. Your wife isn't who you think she is. Ask her about Marcus Bennett and the late nights at the office. Ask her why she really quit her job. The truth will break your heart, but you deserve to know. My hands shook as I read it again. Marcus, Daniel's childhood friend, my former colleague. We'd worked together on projects, nothing more. But someone had twisted that into something ugly, something that could destroy everything. A soft knock at the door made me jump. Vivian? It was Evelyn, Lorraine's mother-in-law, her voice warm with concern. May I come in? I stuffed the letter under my pillow. Of course. Evelyn entered, her weathered face kind but knowing. At 84, she saw more than anyone gave her credit for. I couldn't help but notice you seemed troubled at dinner. I'm fine, I said automatically, then caught myself. Actually, no, I'm not fine at all. She sat beside me on the bed, her presence somehow both comforting and unsettling. Someone's trying to hurt you, aren't they? The question hung in the air between us. Before I could answer, Daniel's voice carried up from downstairs. Mom, have you seen my gray tie? I'll help him look, Evelyn said, patting my hand. But remember, dear, in this house, walls have ears and shadows have eyes. Be careful who you trust. She left me there, clutching a poison pen letter and wondering if my own mother-in-law could really hate me enough to destroy my marriage. But as I heard Lorraine's laugh floating up from below, followed by her sugary sweet, Daniel, darling, let me help you with that. I knew in my gut who was behind this. The game was on, and I refused to be the only one getting hurt. The second letter arrived during Sunday brunch, this time slipped under our bedroom door. I found it while everyone else was downstairs, their voices drifting up through the floorboards like a distant radio play. My hands trembled as I read, Ask your precious wife about the hotel receipts. Ask her why she deletes her text messages. Your mother tried to warn you. I crumpled the paper, fury rising in my throat. 3 days had passed since the first letter, and I'd watched Lorraine work her magic. Little comments at dinner about how Marcus had always been such a devoted friend. Meaningful glances when Daniel mentioned staying late at work. Each word a carefully placed landmine. Everything all right up here? Daniel appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie. Mom's wondering where you disappeared to. I'm sure she is, I thought. Just needed a moment. I forced a smile, shoving the letter into my pocket. Your mother's stories about her garden club can be a bit overwhelming. He crossed the room, pulled me close. I know she can be intense, but she means well. If only you knew. I buried my face in his shoulder, breathing in his familiar scent. Daniel, there's something... Darling? Lorraine's voice preceded her up the stairs. The quiche is getting cold. I pulled away from Daniel, catching the flash of satisfaction in Lorraine's eyes when she saw us separate. She'd perfected the art of interruption. Coming, Mom, Daniel called, then kissed my forehead. We'll talk later? But later never came. Lorraine orchestrated the entire afternoon, keeping us occupied with family photos and stories that always seemed to circle back to her role as the perfect mother, wife, keeper of family harmony. That evening, I found Evelyn in the garden, tending to her roses. She looked up as I approached, her weathered hands steady among the thorns. 2 letters now, she said without preamble. I saw her slipping this morning's under your door. My heart skipped. You saw...
Lorraine's not as subtle as she thinks. Evelyn snipped a dead bloom. She pulled the same tricks with me years ago. Anonymous notes suggesting Robert was unfaithful. Whispered rumors about my past. She wanted control of the house, you see. Wanted me gone. What did you do? I stayed. She met my eyes. Some battles aren't won by fighting, dear. They're won by surviving. A door slammed somewhere in the house. Through the kitchen window, I could see Lorraine on the phone gesturing animatedly. My stomach turned as I recognized the name she was saying. Marcus. She's calling our friends now, I said, spreading her poison. Then perhaps it's time to let her poison work against her. Evelyn handed me a rose, its petals deep red against my pale skin. I've kept quite a collection of Lorraine's little schemes over the years. Letters, receipts, recorded conversations. Insurance, I called it. Never thought I'd need it. I stared at her, understanding dawning. You've been gathering evidence? For 30 years. She smiled, but there was steel beneath the grandmotherly warmth. The question is, what will you do with it? Before I could answer, Daniel's voice cut through the evening air. Vivian, phone call. It's Marcus. Lorraine appeared behind him in the doorway, her face a mask of concerned motherly worry. Darling, you're looking quite flushed. Is everything all right? I met her gaze, saw the challenge there. She thought she had me cornered, that this call from Marcus, which she'd no doubt orchestrated, would be the final push to break me. Everything's fine, I said, my voice steady. Actually, I've been meaning to invite Marcus over for dinner. It's been too long since we've all been together, hasn't it? As a family? The flash of uncertainty in Lorraine's eyes was worth every moment of pain she'd caused. She hadn't expected me to push back, to turn her weapon into my shield. What a lovely idea, Evelyn said, her voice carrying clearly across the garden. I have so many old stories to share, so many interesting things I've saved over the years. Lorraine's smile froze just for a moment, but it was enough. I saw it. Evelyn saw it, and now we both knew. The game was changing. I found the credit card statements in Robert's study while searching for more of Lorraine's letters. They spilled from a drawer left carelessly open, a cascade of red numbers and past due notices. My hands shook as I scanned the documents. Luxury purchases, spa treatments, and something else that made my blood run cold. Regular payments to a private investigator. Marcus arrived for dinner exactly on time, looking uncomfortable in his pressed shirt. Lorraine swooped in before I could greet him, steering him toward the dining room with practiced grace. Marcus, darling, tell us about that new project you're working on. She poured wine with a steady hand. The one keeping you at the office so late. I watched Daniel's expression tighten. The trap was obvious. Too obvious. But then Lorraine reached for her purse, and I saw something that made my heart stop. A familiar cream-colored envelope, identical to the ones I'd been receiving. Actually, Marcus said, clearing his throat, I wanted to discuss something else. Vivian, those marketing reports you handled before leaving, there are some irregularities. Lorraine's hand jerked, wine sloshing over the rim of her glass. Surely this isn't the time. Financial discrepancies, Marcus continued, meeting my eyes. Large sums being redirected to personal accounts. The audit team is very interested. The room went silent. Robert looked up from his plate, fork frozen halfway to his mouth. What sort of discrepancies? Nothing that can't be explained. Lorraine cut in smoothly. I'm sure it's all a misunderstanding. More wine, anyone? But I'd seen the flash of panic in her eyes. The pieces clicked together. The investigator, the missing money, the desperate need to discredit me before I could discover her secret. Actually, I said, pulling out my phone, I have some interesting bank statements right here. Would you like to explain them, Lorraine? She knocked over her water glass, but I saw it for what it was, a diversion. As everyone jumped up to help, her hand slipped into her purse again. Don't, I said quietly. Unless you want me to read those letters you've been writing. The ones in your handwriting, matching the anonymous notes about me and Marcus. Daniel's head snapped up. What letters? Vivian is confused. Lorraine said, but her voice wavered. She's been under such strain lately. Show them. Evelyn's voice cut through the tension. She stood in the doorway, holding a thick manila envelope. Show them everything, Lorraine. The letters, the bank statements, the investigators' reports. Or shall I? Lorraine's facade cracked. You don't understand. I had to protect this family. She was going to ruin everything. By discovering your gambling debts? Robert's voice was deadly quiet. Or by exposing how you've been stealing from our accounts? The room spun with accusations and revelations. Daniel stood frozen between his mother and me, his world unraveling with each new disclosure. But it was Marcus who delivered the final blow. The marketing irregularities weren't Vivian's, he said. They were traced to an external account. Your account, Lorraine. You've been embezzling from the company for years. She lunged for her purse, but I was faster. The letters spilled across the table, dozens of them, all in her distinctive handwriting, all designed to destroy me before I could expose her. I trusted you, Daniel whispered. How could you do this to Vivian? To all of us? Lorraine's mask finally shattered. Everything I did for this family. To maintain our position, our respect. By destroying mine? I asked softly. By trying to convince your son I was unfaithful? I needed you gone, she spat. You were getting too close, asking too many questions. I couldn't let you. Enough. Robert's voice cracked like a whip. Enough, Lorraine. It's over. The silence that followed was deafening. In it, I could hear the death of pretense, the collapse of carefully constructed lies. But as I watched Lorraine's world crumble, I felt no satisfaction, only a hollow understanding of what desperation could drive someone to do. Daniel reached for my hand under the table, and I knew this was just the beginning. The truth was out, but its aftermath would reshape us all. The morning after our disastrous dinner, I found Lorraine in the kitchen, calmly making coffee as if nothing had happened. Her composed facade only cracked when she saw the manila envelope in my hands. Evelyn's collection of evidence spanning 3 decades. You've won, she said flatly. What more do you want? I set the envelope on the counter between us. I want to understand why. All these years of manipulation, the lies, the money. You think you understand anything about family? She turned, her fingers white-knuckled around her coffee cup. About sacrifice? I built this life brick by brick. Everything perfect, controlled, safe. Then you arrived with your questions and your career ambitions, threatening to tear it all down. Mom? Daniel's voice made us both freeze. He stood in the doorway looking older somehow, worn. I just got off the phone with the bank. They're launching a formal investigation. The coffee cup slipped from Lorraine's hands, shattering on the floor. Neither of us moved to clean it up. Daniel, sweetheart, she started, but he cut her off. Don't. He crossed to the counter, picked up the envelope. I need to know everything. No more lies. I watched his face as he read, each page bringing fresh pain. Bank statements showing systematic theft from family accounts. Letters to friends and colleagues spreading vicious rumors about me. Documentation of her gambling debts, hidden behind a wall of respectability. There's more, I said quietly. Marcus sent over the company audit files this morning. Lorraine's head snapped up. You can't. $2 million, I continued, forcing myself to meet Daniel's eyes. Embezzled over 5 years, they're pressing charges. The silence that followed was devastating. Daniel braced himself against the counter, his shoulders shaking. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. Why didn't you come to me? To any of us? I couldn't show weakness, Lorraine said. This family needs truth. Daniel's fist came down hard on the counter. We needed a mother, not a puppet master. Robert appeared in the doorway, his face grave. The police are here. Everything happened too quickly after that. Officers reading rights, Lorraine's quiet dignity crumbling as they led her away. I found myself in our bedroom, mechanically packing a bag, when Evelyn appeared. You're leaving? She asked. though it wasn't really a question. Just for a few days. Daniel needs space to process everything, and I folded the same shirt for the third time, unable to finish the thought. And you're worried you've become what you fought against, she finished. That in exposing Lorraine's manipulation, you've manipulated everyone yourself. My hands stilled. Haven't I? There's a difference between justice and revenge, dear. The question is, which one were you really after? Before I could answer, Daniel appeared in the doorway. Don't go, he said. Please. I looked at the half-packed bag, at Evelyn's knowing smile as she slipped away, at my husband's haunted eyes. I don't want to make things worse. You didn't make this mess. He crossed the room, took the shirt from my hands. Mom did, and now we need to decide what kind of family we want to be. Together. The word hung between us like a promise and a question. Downstairs, I could hear Robert talking with the police, his voice breaking as he described years of deception. The foundation of our family was cracking, but maybe that's what we needed, to break apart before we could rebuild. Together, I agreed, but added, but Daniel, there's something else you need to know. Something about why I really left my job last year. His face tensed, preparing for another blow. But this truth was different, one that might finally free us both from the web of lies we'd been living in. I reached for my old work laptop, buried in the closet for months. It's time you saw what I found in the company files. About your mother, yes, but also about your father's business partners, about why Lorraine was really so desperate to keep me quiet. The truth would hurt, but silence had hurt us more. It was time to tear down the last walls of pretense, whatever the cost. Robert's 60th birthday party loomed like a gathering storm. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the elaborate cake I'd ordered, the one meant to be my peace offering, my way of proving to the family that I could be the daughter-in-law Lorraine never thought I was. She's being released on bail tomorrow morning. Daniel's words cut through my thoughts. He leaned against the doorframe, tie loosened, looking exhausted. Just in time for the party. Of course she is. My laugh came out bitter. Heaven forbid Lorraine Mitchell miss a chance to maintain appearances. The laptop sat between us on the counter, its screen still showing the damning evidence. Not just of Lorraine's crimes, but of Robert's business partner's involvement in a scheme that made her embezzlement look trivial. The truth we hadn't yet shared with him. We have to tell him, I said, before she comes home and spins another web of lies. It's his birthday, Vivian. The whole family will be here. Exactly. Perfect timing for... The kitchen door swung open. Evelyn entered, her face grave. Robert's on the phone with Lorraine's lawyer. She's claiming you planted the evidence. My hands gripped the counter. What? She's saying you orchestrated everything, the audit, the investigation, all of it, to destroy her. That you're trying to take control of the family business. Daniel's phone buzzed. He checked it, his face darkening. Marcus just got served with a cease and desist order. The company's lawyers are backing off the investigation. The room spun. All our careful plans, the evidence we'd gathered, the truth we'd fought to expose. Lorraine was dismantling it all from her jail cell. The party, Evelyn said suddenly. Everyone who matters will be there. The board members, the partners, the family friends. One last grand performance for Lorraine Mitchell. I looked at the cake, its perfect frosting suddenly seeming obscene. Unless what? Daniel asked. But I could see in his eyes he already knew. I opened the laptop again, pulled up the files I'd kept hidden for months. Unless we give them a different kind of show. One where everyone's secrets come out at once. It would destroy them, Daniel whispered. My father's reputation, the company, everything. They destroyed themselves, Evelyn said quietly. We're just turning on the lights. The doorbell rang. Early guests arriving for the party preparations. Daniel straightened his tie, the weight of decision heavy in his movements. Do it, he said finally. All of it. I'm tired of living in shadows. I nodded, but as he left to greet the guests, Evelyn caught my arm. Are you sure you're ready for what comes next? This isn't just about Lorraine anymore. She was right. In my pursuit of justice against Lorraine, I'd uncovered a rot that went deeper than family drama. The company's illegal dealings, Robert's willful ignorance, the web of lies that had enriched them all while destroying others. It was bigger than our personal vendetta now. The sound of laughter drifted in from the living room. Soon the house would be full of people wearing masks of civility, hiding decades of deceit. And tomorrow, Lorraine would walk free, ready to reclaim her throne. I touched the laptop's power button, feeling the weight of everything it contained. "What's that thing you told me about karma, Evelyn?" "That it's not about revenge," she said, watching me carefully. "It's about restoration of balance." More voices joined the growing chorus in the other room. Soon Robert would cut his cake, make his speech, accept congratulations from the very people who'd helped build his empire on fraud. "Then let's restore some balance," I said, and began to type. The party would start in an hour. The cake would be served, speeches made, photos taken. And somewhere between the first toast and the final goodbye, years of carefully constructed lies would come crashing down. I just hoped Daniel could forgive me for what I was about to do to his family's legacy. Lorraine's entrance silenced the room. She swept in wearing cream silk, not a hair out of place, as if she hadn't spent the previous night in a jail cell. The party guests parted before her like waves, their whispered conversations dying mid-sentence. I stood by the cake table, my finger hovering over the send button on my phone. One press and every document, every piece of evidence would go to the press. The police, the board members, the nuclear option. "Darling," Lorraine's voice carried across the room as she approached Robert. "I wouldn't have missed this for the world." Daniel caught my eye from across the room, a silent question in his gaze. I nodded slightly, watching as he moved toward the audiovisual setup we'd prepared. "Before we cut the cake," Lorraine announced, commanding attention effortlessly, "I have something to say." She turned to face the crowd, tears glistening perfectly in her eyes. "My family has been through a terrible ordeal, thanks to certain accusations." My phone buzzed. A message from Marcus. "Company lawyers are here. They know. But today," Lorraine continued, "we celebrate not just my husband's birthday, but the triumph of truth over malice." The projector hummed to life behind her. This was our moment. Our carefully orchestrated exposure of decades of fraud and manipulation. But as I looked at Daniel's face, at Robert's proud smile, at the gathering of innocent people about to have their lives shattered, my finger froze over the button. Lorraine saw my hesitation. Her smile widened. "In fact, I have an announcement to make." The room shifted as two men in suits entered, followed by police officers. Not part of our plan. Not part of anything we'd prepared for. "Mrs. Carter," one of the suits said, approaching me, "we have a warrant for your arrest on charges of corporate espionage and attempted extortion." The phone slipped from my hand, clattering to the floor. Lorraine's voice cut through the shocked murmurs. "I tried to protect this family from her schemes, but some people simply cannot be trusted." "That's not true," I started, but the officer was already reading my rights. Daniel moved toward me, but Robert caught his arm, whispering something urgent in his ear. "The evidence," Evelyn's voice cracked through the chaos. "Show them." "Has been corrupted," Lorraine interrupted smoothly. "Manufactured by a desperate woman trying to destroy this family. The real evidence shows quite a different story." I watched in horror as she produced a familiar-looking laptop. My laptop, but not the one I'd left in the kitchen. This one had been tampered with, its contents altered to tell a very different story. "Check her phone," Lorraine suggested to the officers. "I believe you'll find everything you need there." But my phone lay shattered on the floor where I'd dropped it. Its screen black, the evidence locked away or possibly already deleted by whatever digital sleight of hand Lorraine had orchestrated. Daniel finally broke free from his father's grip. "This isn't right," he began, but stopped short as Robert stepped forward. "Son," he said quietly, "we have proof that your wife has been attempting to manipulate company records for months. The board has already reviewed it." The handcuffs felt cold against my wrists. Through the blur of tears, I saw Marcus being escorted out by the other officers, his face grim. Evelyn stood frozen, her carefully gathered evidence now worthless against Lorraine's masterful countermove. "I did warn you, dear," Lorraine whispered as they led me past her. "Some battles aren't worth fighting." The last thing I saw before they took me away was Daniel's face, confused, betrayed, angry, as Robert showed him something on his phone. Whatever doctored evidence they had, it was enough to make my own husband doubt me. The birthday cake sat forgotten on the table, its cheerful message mocking me as the officers led me through the door. "Here's to truth and family." I'd thought I was playing chess, but Lorraine had been playing a different game entirely, and she'd just checkmated me in front of everyone who mattered. The holding cell was cold, but Lorraine's smile was colder as she sat across from me, separated by bulletproof glass. 3 days since the party, and she'd finally deigned to visit. "I brought you something." She slid a manila envelope through the slot. Inside were divorce papers, Daniel's signature already in place. My hands shook, but I didn't open them. "Why are you here?" "To offer you a deal. Sign these, walk away quietly, and all charges disappear." She leaned forward, perfectly manicured nails tapping the glass. "Otherwise..." The door buzzed. Daniel walked in, followed by Evelyn and, surprisingly, Robert. Lorraine's composure cracked for just a moment. "What are you doing here?" she hissed at Robert, showing them what I found in your private safe. He placed a USB drive on the counter. "The real records, the ones you thought I was too stupid to find." Lorraine's face went ash white. "Robert, don't..." "Play it," Daniel said quietly. The guard brought in a laptop. The video started playing. Lorraine in her office, methodically doctoring company records, making calls about surveillance on me, orchestrating the entire scheme. "Turn it off," Lorraine commanded, but her voice had lost its authority. "There's more," Evelyn said, producing a familiar cream-colored envelope. "The original template for those anonymous letters you sent. Found it in your desk drawer, right where you always kept your special stationery." "You broke into your house?" I interrupted. "Like you broke into my life? My marriage, my career? I protected this family." Lorraine slammed her hand against the glass. "Everything I did was to keep us safe, to keep our status, to keep your control." Robert cut in. The gambling debts, the embezzlement, the manipulation, it was all about control. Daniel stepped closer to the glass. "The police have everything now, Mom. The real evidence, Marcus's testimony, your private accounts." "You wouldn't," Lorraine whispered. "I'm your mother. You're a stranger." Daniel's voice cracked. "And you tried to destroy the woman I love." Lorraine's facade finally shattered. She lunged at the glass, all pretense of dignity gone. "She'll ruin everything. She'll change everything, just like she changed you." "No, Lorraine," I said quietly. "You did that yourself." The guard appeared. "Mrs. Mitchell, the detectives are ready for you." As they led her away, she turned back one last time. "I only wanted what was best for this family." "No," Evelyn said. "You wanted what was best for yourself. There's a difference." The divorce papers still sat untouched on the counter. Daniel picked them up, tore them in half. "The company lawyers are withdrawing all charges," Robert said. "And I've called an emergency board meeting. It's time for some changes." "Changes?" I asked. "Starting with new leadership." He looked at Daniel. "If you're ready." Daniel took my hand through the slot in the glass. "We're ready, together." The guard returned with release papers. As I gathered my belongings, Evelyn touched my arm. "You know she won't go quietly," she warned. "Even from jail, Lorraine will try to fight this." "Let her," I said. "Some battles are worth fighting." Outside, the morning sun felt different somehow. Cleaner. Daniel wrapped his arm around me as we walked to the car, past reporters already gathering for the story of the Mitchell family's fall from grace. "I'm sorry," he whispered, "for doubting, even for a moment." "We all doubted," I said. "That was her power, but not anymore." Robert cleared his throat. The house will be quiet without her. Good, Evelyn said firmly. We've had enough drama for several lifetimes. As we drove away, I caught a glimpse of Lorraine being led to another police car, her cream silk replaced by orange jumpsuit. Our eyes met briefly, and I saw something I'd never seen before in her gaze. Fear. The game was over. And this time, truth had won. The Mitchell house felt different as I packed away Lorraine's carefully curated family photos. Each frame held perfectly posed smiles, a museum of manufactured happiness that had dominated these walls for decades. Leave that one, Evelyn said, pointing to a dusty frame I'd nearly missed. It showed a younger Lorraine, unguarded, laughing with Robert at some forgotten moment. Sometimes it's worth remembering people as they were, not as they became. The sentencing hearing had been brief. Lorraine sat straight-backed in her orange jumpsuit, pride intact even as the judge read out her crimes. When offered a chance to speak, she'd look directly at me. I'm not sorry for protecting what I built, she'd said, but I am sorry for what I destroyed in the process. Now, as I carefully wrapped the photo in tissue paper, Daniel appeared in the doorway. Marcus called. The board approved the restructuring plan. We're reinstating everyone who was forced out under Mom's leadership. Including me? I asked, managing a small smile. He crossed the room, pulled me close. Especially you. Though I hear the new CEO's wife might face accusations of favoritism. Let them talk. I leaned into him. We've survived worse rumors. Robert cleared his throat from the hallway. If you're finished with the photos, there's something else. He held out an envelope, cream-colored, but this time bearing Lorraine's prison return address. Inside was a single sheet of paper, covered in her precise handwriting. The combination to my private safe is Daniel's birthday. Inside, you'll find everything. The real records, the names of everyone I hurt, the truths I buried. Use them wisely. And Vivian, thank you for breaking my perfect prison before it destroyed us all. My hands trembled as I read it again. Why now? Because sometimes, Evelyn said softly, the greatest act of love is admitting you were wrong. The doorbell rang. Marcus, arriving for our first official board meeting as the new leadership team. But before we left, I had one last thing to do. In the kitchen, I opened the cookbook Lorraine had never let anyone touch. Inside, hidden between pages of unused recipes, I found what I expected. More letters, more secrets, more weapons she'd planned to use. What should we do with them? Daniel asked. I carried them to the fireplace where Robert had already started a small blaze. One by one, I fed the letters to the flames. Some stories don't need to be told, I said. Some battles don't need to be won. Speaking of battles, Marcus called from the doorway, waving his phone. You might want to see this. The message was from my old marketing firm. Time to come home? Your office is waiting. I looked around at my unlikely family. Daniel's strength, Robert's redemption, Evelyn's wisdom, Marcus's loyalty. At the spaces where Lorraine's control had once suffocated us all, now filled with something harder to name but stronger to hold. I am home, I said, and deleted the message. Later, as we gathered around the dining table, no perfect place settings, no artificial conversations, Evelyn brought out a cake. Not elaborate or expertly decorated, but real. Honest. To new beginnings, Robert proposed, raising his glass. To truth, Daniel added. To family, I said, meeting Evelyn's knowing smile. The kind we choose to be. As we cut into the cake, I noticed the empty chair at the end of the table. It would always be there. That space where Lorraine had ruled her perfect kingdom. But now it stood as a reminder. Not of what we'd lost, but of what we'd found in its place. The late afternoon sun caught the dusty photo I'd left unpacked, making Lorraine's young, genuine laugh shine like a message from a different time. Some prisons, I realized, lock from the inside. And sometimes the key to freedom isn't revenge or justice, but simply the courage to be imperfectly, unashamedly real.
The smell of disinfectant and baby powder mingled in my nostrils,
as I pushed open our front door, Maya's carrier weighing heavily on my arm. 3 days in the hospital had left me craving the comfort of my own space, my own things, but something felt off the moment I stepped inside. "Welcome home." Vivian's voice drifted from our living room, syrupy sweet and dangerous. I set Maya's carrier down gently, my body still aching from the cesarean. The house was different, emptier, wrong. My throat tightened as I made my way down the hallway, each step revealing another missing piece of my life. "What have you done?" The words scraped out of my mouth as I reached the living room doorway. There sat my mother-in-law, perched on our leather sofa like a vulture, surrounded by stacks of cash. My cash. Behind her, the built-in shelves stood bare, stripped of my collection of vintage cameras. The art prints I'd carefully curated were gone from the walls, leaving only shadow marks on the paint. Teaching you responsibility, Genesis dear. Vivian didn't look up as she counted another stack of bills. A new mother needs to focus on her baby, not all these distractions. I gripped the doorframe, my knees threatening to buckle. Those were my things, my property. And now they're money for the baby's future. She smiled, all teeth. Really, you should thank me. I got excellent prices at the estate sale. Estate sale. The words hit like a physical blow. While I was in the hospital giving birth to her grandchild, she had systematically stripped away my identity. Maya's cry pierced the air, and I turned back toward the entrance, my body moving on autopilot. As I lifted her from the carrier, I noticed my wedding photos were missing from the entryway table. Everything personal, everything mine, gone. "Where's Ryan?" I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. "Working late, as usual." "He knows nothing about this, of course. Men don't understand these things." Vivian stood, smoothing her expensive slacks. "I took the liberty of reorganizing your closet as well. All those impractical designer pieces had to go. A mother needs sensible clothes. My closet." I practically ran up the stairs, Maya clutched to my chest, her tiny body my only anchor to reality. The master bedroom door swung open to reveal bare hangers, where my carefully curated wardrobe had hung. The vintage Chanel suit I'd worn when I first met Ryan at the marketing firm, the red dress from our engagement party, the silk blouses I'd earned with every promotion, all gone. "You had no right." I turned to find Vivian watching from the doorway. "This is theft. This is guidance." She stepped closer, her perfume suffocating. "Ryan gave me the spare key for emergencies. Clearly, this qualified. You need to understand your role now, Genesis. You're a mother, not some career woman playing house." Maya whimpered, and I instinctively rocked her, even as rage burned through my veins. "Get out." "Now, dear, get out." Each word was ice. "And take your blood money with you. This isn't over." Vivian's mask slipped for just a moment, showing something like fear before her practiced smile returned. "We'll see about that. Welcome to motherhood, Genesis." I watched her leave, listening to her heels click down the stairs, the front door open and close. Only then did I sink to the floor, holding Maya close as tears burned my eyes. "I promise you," I whispered to my daughter, "she will never do to you what she's trying to do to me." My phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. "Hope you're settling in okay. Love you both." I stared at the message, at the empty closet, at the bare walls. Vivian thought she was teaching me about motherhood. Instead, she'd taught me about war, and I intended to win. Maya's soft breathing filled the nursery as I traced the walls where my art prints used to hang. 3 days had passed since coming home, and Ryan still hadn't noticed anything missing. Or maybe he had, and just couldn't bring himself to ask. The front door clicked open downstairs. "Jen!" Ryan's voice carried up, followed by his footsteps. I didn't answer, keeping my eyes fixed on the bare wall. He appeared in the doorway, loosening his tie, that familiar concerned crease between his eyebrows. "Everything okay? You didn't answer my texts today." "Just thinking about when we first met," I said, turning to face him. "Remember how we competed for that Johnson account?" He smiled, shoulders relaxing. "You destroyed me in that pitch meeting, and then you asked me out for coffee to learn from my strategy." The memory tasted bitter now. "We were equals then." His smile faded. "Jen, what's this about?" "Your mother sold my things." The words fell like stones between us. While I was in the hospital, everything, my cameras, my art, my clothes. Ryan blinked, processing. "What?" "No, she wouldn't." "Check our closet." I watched him walk to our bedroom, heard his sharp intake of breath. When he returned, his face had gone pale. "I'll talk to her," he said. "There must be some misunderstanding." "A misunderstanding?" I laughed, the sound harsh enough to make Maya stir. "She had an estate sale, Ryan. She counted the money in front of me when I came home with your daughter." He ran a hand through his hair, a nervous habit from our dating days. "Why didn't you tell me right away?" "Why didn't you notice?" I countered. 3 days, Ryan. 3 days of bare walls and empty closets. I've been distracted with work. The merger. Like you were distracted when she rearranged our kitchen last month, or when she started showing up unannounced every weekend? The words rushed out now, months of frustration breaking free. Or maybe you were too distracted to remember it was your idea for me to quit my job. That's not fair. His voice hardened. We agreed it would be best for the baby. No, we didn't agree. You presented it as the only option, backed by statistics from your mother about child development and working parents. I stepped closer, forcing him to meet my eyes. Tell me something. Did you ever actually want an equal partner, or was that just until you found someone to mold into your mother's vision? Ryan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it reflexively, and I caught Vivian's name on the screen. Go ahead, I said. Answer it. She's probably calling to make sure you're handling me properly. Genesis, stop. He shoved the phone back in his pocket. You're being paranoid. Mother can be overwhelming sometimes, but she means well. Means well? I moved to Maya's crib, placing my hand on her back, feeling her tiny heartbeat. She violated our home, stole my property, and you're defending her. I'm not defending. He cut off as Maya began to cry. Look, let me talk to her. I'll sort this out. I lifted Maya, cradling her close. You know what the worst part is? When we were dating, you told me stories about how controlling she was, how she drove your father away. I thought you understood. I thought you'd be different. Ryan stepped toward us, reached out, then let his hand fall. I'll get the money back. I'll make this right. It was never about the money. I turned away, focusing on soothing Maya. It was about respect, about trust, about being partners. We are partners. No, I said quietly. Partners notice when their wife's world is being dismantled. Partners protect each other. Maya settled against my shoulder, her cries softening. Partners choose each other. His phone buzzed again. This time, he answered it, stepping into the hallway. I heard his murmured conversation, the familiar placating tone he used with his mother. Looking down at Maya's peaceful face, I made a decision. Ryan could keep playing peacekeeper between his mother and me. But I was done being the victim in their dynamic. If Vivian wanted to teach me about being a mother, I'd show her exactly what a mother was capable of when protecting what was hers. The question was, what would I have left to protect when this was over? The security camera footage played on my laptop screen, grainy but clear enough. Vivian's familiar figure moved through our living room at 2:47 p.m. last Tuesday while I was at my prenatal appointment. She wasn't just dropping by. She was searching, methodical and purposeful, pulling books from shelves and rifling through drawers. I'd installed the cameras after Maya's birth, telling Ryan they were for the baby's safety. He'd smiled, called me overprotective. If he only knew. The footage continued. Vivian disappeared upstairs, returning 20 minutes later, clutching papers to her chest. My stomach clenched. Our home office was upstairs. Maya's monitor crackled with her afternoon fuss. I closed the laptop and headed to the nursery, my mind racing. What had she taken? What was she looking for? The answer waited in Ryan's desk drawer that evening, after he'd left for his weekly dinner with Vivian. A stack of letters. Dozens of them, all from her to him, dating back months before our wedding. I pulled one at random, dated 3 weeks ago. Dearest Ryan, I worry about Genesis's capability as a mother, her resistance to traditional values, her stubborn independence. These aren't qualities that nurture a stable home. Remember how your father's modern ideas destroyed our family? I've seen the signs before. My hands shook as I read letter after letter. Each one methodically undermined me, poisoned Ryan's perception of me, justified every interference. The front door opened downstairs. I froze. Letters scattered across the desk. Jen? Ryan's voice. Home early. I gathered the letters quickly, shoving them into my pocket. In the office. His footsteps on the stairs, then he appeared in the doorway, looking troubled. Mother's not feeling well. Dinner ended early. How convenient, I said, keeping my voice neutral. Everything okay? She's worried about you. He leaned against the doorframe. Says you've been cold lately, distant. I almost laughed. Distant? After what she did? She returned the money today. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. And she's sorry about the estate sale. She thought she was helping. The letters burned in my pocket. Did she tell you why she has a key to our house? For emergencies. Like searching our office while I'm at doctor's appointments. His expression shifted. What are you talking about? I pulled out my phone, pulled up the security footage, watched his face as he saw his mother methodically violating our privacy. This doesn't prove anything, he said, but his voice wavered. She could have been looking for... I threw the letters onto the desk between us. They scattered like accusations. Read them, I said. Read how she's been systematically turning you against me, how she compares me to your father, warns you about my independence, my career ambitions, my unfitness as a mother. Ryan picked up a letter, then another. His face grew paler with each one. She's scared, he whispered finally, after Dad left. Stop making excuses for her. The words exploded out of me. She's not scared. She's controlling, and you're letting her do it. Maya's cry pierced the tension. I moved to leave, but Ryan caught my arm. Why didn't you tell me about these before? I looked at his hand on my arm, then into his eyes. Because you wouldn't have believed me. You still don't want to. That's not fair. Neither is this. I pulled away. Your mother isn't just trying to control me anymore, Ryan. She's trying to control Maya's future, and I won't let that happen. What are you saying? Maya's cries grew louder. I headed for the nursery, calling over my shoulder. I'm saying you need to decide whose side you're really on. Because this war your mother started, it ends with one of us winning. And I don't lose. I lifted Maya from her crib, holding her close as Ryan stood in the doorway, letters still clutched in his hand. The choice was his now, but I already knew what my next move would be. Vivian wasn't the only one who could play the long game, and she'd just given me all the ammunition I needed. The bank statement trembled in my hands as I sat in the parked car outside Vivian's favorite salon. $200,000 transferred from our joint account to a new one in Ryan's name only. Last Thursday, the day after I showed him the letters, my phone buzzed. A text from Ryan. Working late again. Don't wait up. Through the salon window, I watched Vivian laugh with her stylist, probably sharing another story about her incompetent daughter-in-law. She'd been here 3 hours already. Plenty of time for me to do what I came for. I slipped my spare key into her front door, the one Ryan had given me during better days, for emergencies. The house smelled of leather and old money, everything perfectly arranged like a museum to her control. In her study, I found what I expected. Files, meticulously organized. But what I discovered made my blood run cold. Custody papers, already drawn up. Documentation of my unstable behavior. Photographs of me crying in the nursery, taken through our kitchen window. Notes about my concerning isolation and rejection of family support. Looking for something? I whirled around. Vivian stood in the doorway, her fresh highlights gleaming like a crown. You're building a case against me. My voice came out steady, surprising us both. Insurance. She stepped into the room, closing the door behind her. Ryan's always had a weakness for strong women, just like his father. But strong women break things, Genesis, families, marriages, children. Is that what happened? Your husband left because you weren't strong enough to keep him? Her smile tightened. I kept what mattered. My son, my position, my control. And now you're trying to take my daughter. Oh, darling. She perched on her desk, perfectly poised. I'm trying to save her. From a mother who's clearly suffering from postpartum depression, who's becoming paranoid, who installed security cameras and makes wild accusations. She gestured to the files. The evidence is quite compelling. My hands curled into fists. Ryan would never. Ryan already has. She pulled out a document, his signature fresh at the bottom. He's concerned too. That transfer you discovered? It's to protect family assets while we get you the help you need. The room tilted. You're lying. Check your text messages. He's not working late. He's meeting with my lawyer. She leaned forward, almost gentle. It's for the best, Genesis. You're not well. Maya needs stability. I backed toward the door, files clutched to my chest. This isn't over. It was over the moment you married my son. Her voice followed me down the hall. I just had to wait for you to prove me right. Outside, I sat in my car, hands shaking as I called Ryan's office. Mr. Anderson left early today, his secretary said. He had a meeting with Patricia Chen, Vivian's lawyer. I drove home on autopilot, mind racing. The house was dark when I arrived, Maya's nursery silent. I checked the security footage. There was Ryan, 4 hours ago, lifting Maya from her crib, packing her diaper bag with practiced care. My phone buzzed again. Staying at Mom's tonight with Maya. We need to talk tomorrow. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. The message blurred as tears filled my eyes. But beneath the pain, something else crystallized. Pure, clarifying rage. They thought they had me cornered, labeled, diagnosed, and dismissed. But they'd forgotten something crucial. I wasn't just Maya's mother or Ryan's wife. I was the woman who'd outmaneuvered Ryan in every business deal before he married me. The executive who'd built campaigns from nothing. The strategist who never played to lose. I pulled out my laptop, fingers flying across the keys. If they wanted evidence, I'd give them evidence. If they wanted a war, I'd give them destruction. But first, I needed to make a call to the one person who hated Vivian as much as I did. It was time to talk to Ryan's father. The cafe buzzed with morning chatter as I sat across from James Anderson, studying Ryan's features in his father's aged face. He stirred his coffee methodically, the same way his son did. Vivian always was thorough, he said, reviewing the custody documents I'd brought. She used similar tactics when she took Ryan from me, documented every business trip, every late meeting, every moment I wasn't the perfect father she demanded. And you just let her win? His smile was bitter. I made the mistake of believing Ryan would see through her manipulation eventually. By the time I realized my error, she'd already convinced him I'd abandoned them both. My phone lit up. Another message from Ryan. The lawyer says this can be simple if you cooperate. Mom's found an excellent facility. I switched it off. I need something I can use against her, something concrete. After 20 years? James shook his head. Vivian doesn't leave evidence, Genesis. She creates it. The waitress refilled our cups. I watched the steam rise, remembering the security footage, the photographs through my window, the carefully crafted narrative of my instability. Unless... James leaned forward. There might be something. The trust fund she set up for Ryan, the one she uses to control his financial decisions. I always suspected the money came from illegal sources. My marketing brain kicked in. That would explain how she maintained her lifestyle after your divorce, despite having no visible income. If you could prove it. He left the sentence hanging. The cafe door chimed. I glanced up and froze. Vivian stood in the entrance, her face a masterpiece of calculated concern. She walked toward us, each click of her heels a countdown. Genesis, darling, we've been so worried. Her voice carried just enough for nearby tables to hear. Running off like this, meeting with questionable people. James stood. Hello, Vivian. Still practicing your concerned mother act? James, still trying to destroy what's left of our family? She turned to me, eyes gleaming. Ryan's beside himself. First the paranoid accusations, now secret meetings with his estranged father. This isn't helping your case, dear. I rose slowly, steady despite my racing heart. Interesting. You found me awfully quickly for someone who claims I'm paranoid about being watched. A mother's intuition. She placed a manicured hand on my arm. Let me help you, Genesis. For Maya's sake. I jerked away. Don't touch me. Everything okay here? The waitress appeared, coffee pot ready like a weapon. Fine, I said, but Vivian spoke over me. My poor daughter-in-law is having a difficult time adjusting to motherhood. We're just trying to get her the help she needs. The waitress's sympathetic look cut deeper than any knife. This was Vivian's true power, turning concern into control, twisting reality until I looked exactly like the unstable mother she'd painted me to be. I have to go, I said, gathering my things. Genesis. James caught my arm. Remember what I said about the trust. Some things are worth burning for. Vivian's smile flickered. For just a moment, I saw fear in her eyes. Outside, the morning sun felt too bright, too exposing. My phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. A photo appeared. Maya in her carrier, sleeping peacefully in what looked like a lawyer's office. Another message followed. Time to come home, Genesis, or the next meeting will be about more than temporary custody. I stared at Maya's peaceful face, my vision blurring with tears of rage. Vivian thought she was teaching me about motherhood, about sacrifice. Instead, she taught me that sometimes, to protect what you love, you had to be willing to destroy everything else. I opened my contacts, scrolling to a number I'd kept from my executive days, a forensic accountant who specialized in uncovering hidden money trails. Hello, Marcus. I need you to look into a trust fund, and I need it done quietly. If Vivian wanted to play with fire, I'd show her how it felt to burn. Marcus's report landed in my inbox at 3 a.m., its contents glowing like toxic waste on my laptop screen. Offshore accounts, shell companies, money laundering through art purchases, Vivian's financial empire was built on decades of careful fraud. The trust fund that controlled Ryan's life was a house of cards waiting to collapse. My phone lit up. Ryan? Where are you? His voice was raw. Mom says you've been making threats. I laughed, the sound foreign even to my ears. Is that what she calls it when someone fights back? Genesis, please. Come home. We can work this out. Like you worked out the custody papers or the commitment papers. Silence stretched between us. Then, how did you... No. I know everything now, Ryan. About the trust fund, about your father, about how your mother built her perfect little kingdom on lies. What are you talking about? Check your email. I heard the notification ping through the phone, followed by the sound of him opening the files. His breathing changed as he read. This can't be real. Ask her. Watch her face when you do. The line went dead. I stared at the phone, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life or finally broken free. 20 minutes later, pounding on my hotel room door made me jump. Genesis! Vivian's voice, sharp with panic. Open this door immediately. I checked the peephole. She stood there alone, perfectly coiffed even at this hour, but her hands were shaking. I opened the door. Where's Maya? Safe with Ryan. Unlike you, I don't use children as weapons. She pushed past me into the room. What do you want? Want? To keep this quiet. Name your price. I closed the door slowly, savoring the moment. You think this is about money? It's always about money. She paced the small room. Fine. Full custody. The house. Half the trust fund. I want my daughter. My voice cut through her bargaining. I want my life back. I want you gone. She stopped pacing, something dangerous flickering in her eyes. You have no idea what you're doing. One phone call and I can... What? Destroy me? Too late. I pulled out my phone. One button, and every financial authority in the country gets these files. Your empire burns. Ryan sees who you really are. Is that what you want? You'll lose everything, too. She stepped closer. Ryan will never forgive you for destroying his mother. Maya will grow up knowing you tore her family apart. Is revenge worth that price? My finger hovered over the send button. Maybe not. But protecting my daughter from you? That's worth everything. Mom. Ryan's voice from the doorway made us both jump. He stood there, Maya sleeping against his shoulder, looking between us with new eyes. Is it true? All of it? Vivian's mask cracked. Ryan, darling, I can explain. Don't. He walked past her to me, gently transferring Maya into my arms. I saw the papers. Called the lawyer. It's over. No. Vivian grabbed his arm. Everything I did was for you. To protect you. Like I protected you from your father. You mean how you drove him away? Ryan pulled free. How you're trying to drive Genesis away? She'll destroy everything we built. You already did that. He turned to me, eyes full of grief and determination. Come home, please. We'll fix this together. Maya stirred in my arms, her tiny hand clutching my shirt. I looked at Vivian, saw the desperation beneath her perfect facade, the fear of losing control. One condition, I said. She never comes near our family again. You can't, Vivian started, But Ryan cut her off. Done. As we left, Vivian called out one last time, her voice breaking. Ryan, please. I'm your mother. He didn't look back. No, you're just someone who taught me what a mother shouldn't be. In the elevator, holding Maya, watching Ryan's reflection in the mirrored walls, I wondered if victory was supposed to feel this hollow. We'd won, but the cost was written in the shadows under Ryan's eyes, in the tremor of his hands as he touched Maya's cheek. Sometimes winning feels exactly like losing, but at least we'd lose together. The doorbell rang at midnight. 1 week after our confrontation at the hotel, Ryan tensed beside me on the couch, but I already knew who it was. The security camera showed Vivian standing on our porch, no longer the polished matriarch, but something rawer, more dangerous. Don't answer it, Ryan said. I handed him Maya's sleeping form and stood. This ends tonight. Vivian had been busy this week, calling Ryan's colleagues, spreading rumors about my mental state, trying to freeze our accounts, each attack more desperate than the last. I opened the door. She pushed past me, stumbling slightly. The perfect mask had cracked, showing something wild underneath. I got your message, she said, waving her phone. You're bluffing about sending those files to the authorities. Am I? I closed the door, following her into the living room. You don't know me very well. She stopped short at the sight of Ryan holding Maya. Something flickered across her face. Pain, longing, fury. I know exactly who you are. Her voice shook. A woman who married above her station, who couldn't handle real responsibility, who's destroying my son's life. That's enough. Ryan stood, cradling Maya protectively. You don't understand what she's doing, Vivian pleaded. She'll take everything. Your daughter, your reputation, your future. Just like your father tried to tell him the truth. I stepped between them. About his father, about the money, about all of it. I protected him. She whirled on me. You think you know what it takes to keep a family safe? I built everything we have. Everything. Through fraud, Ryan said quietly. Through lies. Through necessity. She moved toward him, hands outstretched. Your father would have destroyed us with his gambling debts. I did what I had to do. Everything I built, every decision I made, was for you. No, I caught her arm. It was for you, your control, your fear of being alone. She jerked away, but something had changed in her eyes. You think you're so different? Look at yourself. Destroying evidence, manipulating situations, using Maya as leverage. You're becoming me. The words hit like a physical blow, because somewhere beneath my righteousness, I knew she was right. The difference, I said slowly, is I'm going to stop. I pulled out my phone, opened the email containing Marcus's report, and deleted it. Genesis, what are you doing? Ryan stepped forward. Choosing who I want to be. I turned to Vivian. You're right. I was becoming you, and Maya deserves better than that legacy. You're a fool, she whispered, but her voice had lost its edge. Maybe, but I'm a fool who's done playing your game. I moved to the door, opening it. Leave, Vivian. Not because I'm forcing you, but because it's the only way any of us heal. She stood frozen, looking between Ryan and Maya, then at me. For the first time, I saw past her armor to the terrified woman beneath, the one so afraid of losing control she'd lost everything else instead. Ryan, she breathed, one last plea. He shook his head, tears in his eyes. Goodbye, Mom. She straightened, gathering the shreds of her dignity. At the door, she paused. You'll regret showing mercy. No, I said. I'll regret becoming someone my daughter couldn't respect. After she left, Ryan and I stood in silence, Maya still sleeping peacefully between us. The victory felt different than I'd imagined. Not triumphant, but quietly profound. "Why did you delete the evidence?" he finally asked. I touched Maya's cheek, feeling her warm breath. "Because revenge would have given her power over who I become. And I want to be someone who chooses differently than she did." He pulled us both close, and in that embrace, I felt something shift. Not an ending, but a beginning. We'd face the consequences tomorrow. The rumors, the financial fallout, the long process of healing. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of choosing mercy over vengeance, I finally felt free. The envelope arrived on Maya's first birthday, elegant cream paper with Vivian's unmistakable handwriting. I found it while clearing away wrapping paper from the small celebration we'd just finished. Just the three of us, surrounded by balloons and the remnants of Maya's first cake adventure. Ryan noticed my hesitation. "You don't have to open it." But I did. Inside was a key, the one she'd used to enter our house that day after Maya's birth, and a letter. The key fell heavy into my palm as I unfolded the paper. "Genesis, I'm selling the house. Moving to Paris, perhaps. Or Rome. Somewhere far from the ruins I've created. You were right about one thing. I was afraid. Not just of losing Ryan, but of becoming irrelevant. Invisible. The money from my estate sale is in a trust for Maya. Clean money, I assure you. Consider it restitution for what I took from you. Accept it or don't. That's your choice now, as everything should have been from the start. You won what I never could, the wisdom to break the cycle." V. Ryan read over my shoulder, his breath catching. "She's really leaving?" "She already has." I turned the key over in my hand. "The postmark is from 2 weeks ago." Maya babbled from her high chair, face still smeared with frosting. I watched her grab at floating balloons, fearless and joy-filled, untouched by the shadows our battle had cast. "What will you do with the trust?" Ryan asked. I walked to Maya, wiping chocolate from her cheeks. "Keep it. Not for us, but for her, so she'll always have choices." "And the key?" I looked at the small metal weight in my palm, thinking of locks and barriers, of boundaries crossed and trust broken, of how victory and defeat sometimes wore the same face. "I think," I said slowly, "it's time to change our locks. Not out of fear this time, but because some doors need to stay closed so others can open." Ryan wrapped his arms around us both, and Maya reached up, smearing frosting on his chin. We laughed, the sound lighter than it had been in months. Later that night, after Maya was asleep, I found another envelope while cleaning, this one hidden in the birthday decorations. Inside was a photograph I thought lost forever. Me in my vintage Chanel suit, shaking Ryan's hand after winning the Johnson account. On the back, in James's handwriting, "Found this in Vivian's things. Thought you should have it. Some victories are worth remembering. J." I pinned it to Maya's bulletin board, next to her birthday photos. Not as a reminder of what was lost, but as proof of what remained possible. Strength without cruelty, protection without possession, love without conditions. The security camera chimed, someone at the door. But when I checked the feed, I saw only a moving truck passing by, heading toward Vivian's neighborhood. In its wake, autumn leaves skittered across our porch, free and directionless. Ryan found me there, staring at the empty street. "Regrets?" he asked. "No." I turned off the camera feed. "Just thinking about choices and consequences, and how sometimes winning means choosing not to fight." He nodded, understanding what I couldn't quite say, that in the space between revenge and forgiveness lay something harder and more valuable than either. Maya's soft breathing drifted through the monitor, peaceful and sure. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new boundaries to draw and protect. But tonight, in the quiet aftermath of a first birthday celebration, I felt the weight of the past year settling into something like wisdom. I placed Vivian's key in a memory box alongside the photo and her letter, not to preserve the pain, but to remember its lessons. Then I closed the box, leaving the ghosts of what might have been to rest with the truth of what was. Some victories don't need witnesses. Some battles end not with surrender, but with the courage to put down our weapons and walk away. And sometimes, the greatest revenge is simply living well, on our own terms, in houses we build ourselves.